Chapter 10:13. Xiao Su was a bit unwilling to be interrupted, but when he followed her gaze, the fire in his eyes was immediately extinguished. Because he remembered the reason. He didn't want the little fellow to know, but unexpectedly, she found out. "It's nothing, I accidentally got it." Xiao Su looked away, lowering his head to take off his battle clothes. How could Chu Qingyan believe this? Would someone accidentally pour something on her shoulder? Big ice cube. Don't treat me like a 3-year-old child, believing whatever you say. She took a step back, crossing her arms as she looked at him, showing that she didn't believe him. "Okay, I'll tell you the truth." Xiao Su was helpless. As expected, he couldn't hide it from her. The battle clothes had already been taken off, and he casually placed it on the crossbar. With a seemingly casual expression, he said, "When I was visiting Imperial Mother today, she accidentally spilled the tea, and it just happened to fall on my shoulder. It's not a big deal." In just a few words, the domineering and arrogant atmosphere in Chaoyang Palace was gone. But how could Chu Qingyan not understand the truth behind his words? This matter involved Empress Liang, so Chu Qingyan couldn't ask. She immediately stepped forward, grabbing his white inner clothes with both hands. "That tea must be very hot. Let me see if you're injured." The little fellow didn't continue to pursue the matter, which was unexpected, but it was also what he wanted. "Only, it's nothing, my skin is rough and my flesh is thick. This little bit of hot water won't affect me." Xiao Su held her hand and said with a chuckle, "The wind leaves a mark, and the wild goose leaves a sound. Not to mention, it's boiling tea. How can it be nothing? I don't care, let go, or I'll go to Chaoyang Palace and find your Imperial Mother to reason with." How could a person get injured when they come back from the palace? The more he didn't let her see, the stronger the guess in her heart. She definitely couldn't let the big ice cube get away with it. Hearing her say that she wanted to find Imperial Mother, Xiao Su didn't know why, but he laughed out loud. Chu Qingyan looked up and saw his eyes shining. She couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong with you? Is it very funny?" "No." The corners of his mouth were still unable to hide the smile on his face. Chu Qingyan was baffled. At this time, he was no longer stopping her. She couldn't care about anything else. She tiptoed and lifted his inner clothes, revealing his shoulders. His shoulders were red with blisters. Because the battle suit was too heavy and too hard, it would rub against the wound when he walked. Many blisters burst, and his clothes were stained with blood. The flesh underneath was badly mangled. Chu Qingyan's fingers trembled slightly as she stared blankly at the patch of red. She turned to look at him and said softly, "Is this what you mean by fine? If I didn't insist on seeing it, would you still hide it from me?" Xiao Su glanced at his shoulder and turned to look at her. "It's nothing serious. This is just a minor injury." Because he had suffered countless injuries since he was young, this little bit of pain was nothing to him. But to the little fellow in front of him, it seemed to be different. Chu Qingyan glared at him fiercely. She really wanted to push him away and not care about him anymore, but she couldn't bear to. She pushed him to the chair and sat down. Then, she turned around and walked out of the door in a huff. Xiao Su thought that she was really angry and prepared to pull up his clothes to chase after her. But when he reached the door, she was already back. "Do you know that you're injured? You still dare to run outside? Go over and sit down." Chu Qingyan closed the door and saw the person behind her. She ordered with a serious face. Xiao Su didn't know whether to laugh or cry at her tone. But his angry wife was the most important. He didn't dare to resist and sat down obediently. Jasper, who was standing outside the door to help take the medicine bottle, was about to leave when she heard a sentence from inside. "Clothes, take off." Jasper staggered and almost fell. She wiped away her sweat and steadied herself. Master was really domineering. No, she couldn't leave. She had a stand guard here. If someone didn't have eyes and pushed the door open, Master would be in an awkward position. Due to her good hearing, Jasper immediately retreated a few steps and stood straight under the beam. Chu Qingyan didn't know that her image in Jasper's heart had changed completely. At this time, she was concentrating on treating the wound that had already started to fester. She carefully removed the dead skin, and after cleaning and disinfecting it, she spread the medicine powder over the wound. This wound looked very serious. She could feel that her heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys were all in pain, but he didn't even frown the entire time. She pursed her lips and then put away the medicine bottle. It's taken care of. When you bathe later, remember not to let the wound come into contact with water. Hearing her instructions, Xiao Su looked up at her. Don't take this matter to heart. It's just a superficial wound. I hit your body, but the pain is in my heart. Do you understand? Chu Qingyan snorted. Xiao Su's eyes were as gentle as water. He reached out and pulled her into his arms. I'll be careful in the future. Chu Qingyan leaned into his arms, and her expression became worried. Big ice cube. You're already injured on the first day we came back. It's not a good start. I don't know what to do. I really want to return to Jiangnan as soon as possible. Xiao Su patted her back and said softly, There's a celebration banquet tomorrow night. Imperial Father asked me to take you there. When the banquet is over, I'll ask Imperial Father to resign. At that time, we'll leave this place. Okay. She nodded, but her heart was still unsettled. She was really worried that there would be more twists and turns when they returned. However, since the big ice cube had already said it, she didn't need to worry about it anymore. She didn't want to transmit her negative emotions to him. The big ice cube would definitely have a lot of things to deal with when he came back, so she didn't want to cause trouble. Her uneasiness subsided, and the faint smell of medicine lingered at the tip of her nose. Her mind instantly became much clearer. At this time, she realized that the person she was hugging was actually naked. Cough, cough. When she didn't realize it, she could still lean on him naturally. Now that she realized it, she felt uncomfortable all over. Her rationality told her that she should immediately withdraw from his arms, but her actions were faster than her brain. She reached out and gently poked the chest in front of her. Although it was hard, it was also very elastic. His wheat-colored skin was very sexy. She couldn't help but think of the handsome men on the cover of those magazines. Her big ice cube looked thin in clothes, but when he took them off, he was muscular. She really picked up a bargain. Suddenly, a suppressed voice came from above her head. Haven't you touched enough? Chu Qingyan blurted out without thinking. It's simply too admirable. Wait, something seemed wrong. The temperature in the air suddenly rose, and she suddenly blushed. I'll go out first. She turned and wanted to leave. However, just as she took a step, her wrist was grabbed. Her body trembled slightly, and her whole body was pulled in front of him. He reached out and cupped her cheeks. You want to leave? It's too late. Just as the domineering words fell, a black shadow covered her and instantly took away her breath. Chapter 1014. When Chu Qingyan left the room, her face was completely red, her lips were bright red, and her eyes were still unfocused. She turned to the side and saw Jasper standing like a pillar. She immediately coughed a few times to hide her emotions. Jasper nodded slightly. Mistress, Fourth Prince just sent someone to find you. Are you going to see him now? Chu Qingyan's heart skipped a beat. She had almost forgotten that Xiao Ran was still in the drawing room. She put away the tender look on her face and immediately strode forward. We'll go to the drawing room now. When Chu Qingyan arrived at the drawing room, Xiao Ran had already asked Xiao what he wanted to know. He was drinking tea and quietly pondering. After this incident, Xiao Shi's fear had surpassed her vanity. She didn't even dare to breathe loudly. When she saw her princess consort enter, she immediately let out a sigh of relief and went to greet her. Princess consort. Chu Qingyan nodded to her and then walked in front of Xiao Ran. Xiao Ran, who was deep in thought, did not notice her arrival. He only saw a black figure flash in front of him, interrupting his train of thought. He raised his head and saw the person standing in front of him with a smile like a flower. He couldn't help but smile. You're back? Where's eldest brother? He's bathing. It will probably be a while before he comes over. Chu Qingyan sat down and said with a smile. Xiao Ran nodded. Sitting in front of him was the girl that he had been thinking about for the past few years. At this moment, his emotions were like a wave, unable to calm down. He did not forget the previous incident. When Chu Qingyan dismissed the servants, leaving only Jasper, he said guiltily, Qingyan, last time I was blind and didn't recognize that person as you. There was only a difference of one word, but I didn't notice it. Every time I think of this, I feel especially vexed." When Chu Qingyan heard this, she said disapprovingly, "I was wondering why you were frowning. So it's because of this matter. You don't have to take it to heart. After all, it's been so many years. It's normal that you can't recognize someone with a different appearance. You all can relax. Also, I really like the little things you gave me. It's my good fortune to have a friend like you." When she finished speaking, she smiled and thanked him sincerely. After receiving her forgiveness, Xiao Ran also relaxed. It was because he cared too much about a person that he treated everything related to her, even if it was a trivial matter, as a big deal. Hearing her mention the box of gifts, he scratched his head in embarrassment and smiled foolishly. "As long as you like it." Chu Qingyan covered her mouth and smiled, then asked about his life. "How have you been these past few years?" "If I use 4 words to describe it, it's as calm as water," Xiao Ran sighed. "I've always been cooped up in the palace. If I wasn't studying poetry, then I was reading the art of war. If I wasn't practicing swordsmanship, then I was practicing archery. The days just passed like this. To be honest, I really envy you and eldest brother. You can leave the capital and live the life you want. You don't have to be restrained like this every day." When Chu Qingyan heard this, she smiled and shook her head. "Hearing you complain here, how many people in the capital should commit seppuku? It should be said that the life you're living now is what most people are envious of." Xiao Ran shook his head. "Everyone's status is not something they can choose. Actually, I don't like this kind of life. These past few years, I've always wanted to go to Lianqing to find you, but Imperial Mother has always stopped me from leaving the capital. If it wasn't for the Nansong invasion this time, I'm afraid I wouldn't have the chance to go to the border in this lifetime." When she heard Xiao Ran's words, she sighed in her heart. How could Consort Yu let her son go to the territory of a competitor? If something bad happened, she couldn't afford to take the risk. "It's fine. Didn't we come back this time? Actually, as long as it's fated, we'll be able to meet again." She comforted. Xiao Ran also knew that she was comforting him, so his tone was a little downcast. "Actually, during the Nansong invasion this time, I didn't fulfill my duty. I didn't beat them out of the Sichuan, and I even lost miserably. This can't be entirely blamed on you. The other party came with a vengeance and said that they were fully prepared tomorrow. You didn't have any experience before, so it's normal for you to fail. Didn't they say that failure is the mother of success? Now that you've experienced war, when you go to the battlefield again in the future, you'll definitely have a card up your sleeve, and it'll be much smoother, right?" Chu Qingyan stood from the perspective of a friend and guided him. He didn't know why, but when these words came from other people's mouths, they didn't have any effect on him. But when they came from Qingyan's mouth, he felt as if he was instantly healed. Could this be the difference between caring and not caring? "Qingyan, you're the best." Xiao Ran looked at her with sparkling eyes. Chu Qingyan felt that his gaze was a little strange, but she didn't think too much about it. She waved her hand confidently and said, "We're all friends. No need to be so polite." Xiao Ran chuckled, then remembered something. "Qingyan, you're not leaving this time when you return to the capital, right?" Chu Qingyan was a little distressed. "I'm not too sure. We were originally going to return to Lian City, but His Majesty ordered us to return to the capital." Hearing this, Xiao Ran's expression changed slightly. "Don't tell me you're still going to leave?" Although the capital isn't as free as the outside world, there are still many fun places. "I hope that you can stay here so that when I want to find you in the future, I can find you anytime and anywhere." Chu Qingyan thought that he couldn't bear to part with her and Big Ice Cube, so she smiled and comforted him. "It's fine. If we're not here, you can still find other friends to play with. If you miss us, we can contact each other through letters. Besides, your eldest brother and I aren't too suited for life in the capital. To be precise, it should be that they didn't like to make a living in the deep waters of the capital." When Xiao Ran heard this, he didn't feel good. He thought that once Qingyan returned to the capital, she wouldn't leave again. Then, he could get closer to her and find a suitable opportunity to express his feelings to her. But now, she still wanted to leave. Then wouldn't he have waited for all these years in vain? "Qingyan, can't you stay? If eldest brother has many things to take care of in the fief, you won't be able to help. Why don't you stay here? If you're afraid of being bored and lonely, I can often leave the palace to accompany you. Xiao Ran tried his best to persuade her. Chu Qingyin couldn't help but laugh. Xiao Ran, of course I'll leave with His Highness. He can't possibly make me stay here. He will, as long as there's a legitimate reason, such as the cancellation of your engagement. When Xiao Ran said this, Huang Yi suddenly walked in from outside and said with a smile, Princess Consort, the food is ready. Because her voice was too loud, it covered up Xiao Ran's words. Chu Qingyin turned to look at Huang Yi reproachfully. How can you be so careless? When Huang Yi saw that there were other people in the hall, she immediately stuck out her tongue and apologized. Chu Qingyin smiled and shook her head. Then she continued to look at Xiao Ran with a puzzled expression. What did you just say? When Huang Yi spoke, Xiao Ran suddenly realized that he had misspoken. He was a bit glad that she had appeared. When he heard the little lass's question, he quickly denied it. Nothing. Chu Qingyin looked at him strangely and then threw the matter to the back of her mind. It's almost time for dinner. You can stay in the food to eat later. Don't go back to the palace. Chapter 10:15. To be able to spend more time with the little lass was something that Xiao Ran couldn't ask for more, so he agreed without hesitation. Chu Qingyin thought that this brat was probably thinking about Huang Yi's cooking skills. She remembered that very early on, he would come to the Fu every 2 to 3 days under the pretext of coming to see them, but in reality, he was here to freeload. When the two of them sat down at the dining table, Xiao Su had already dressed and appeared. When he saw Xiao Ran, Xiao Su raised his eyebrows, but in the end, he didn't say anything and just sat down. As soon as he saw Xiao Su, Xiao Ran immediately turned into a little fan and asked fervently, Eldest brother, I heard that you had a divine strategy and brilliant foresight. In the end, you trapped Peng Huang in the mountains, leaving him with nowhere to run. Is that true? Xiao Su's hand paused as he picked up his chopsticks. He looked at him and said, When you're facing an opponent or team that's as strong as you, going head-on is the worst thing to do. The best way is to divide up their forces and weaken their strength. Then, you'll be able to defeat them with a head-on attack. Xiao Ran earnestly noted it down. In this life, other than Imperial Father, the person he admired the most was eldest brother. Every time he said something, it gave people a feeling of enlightenment. Chu Qingyin saw that the two of them were so engrossed in their discussion that they hadn't eaten, so she couldn't help but say, If you want to discuss, wait until after the meal. Right now, it's time to eat. The two of them looked at each other and couldn't help but smile, temporarily stopping the topic. At this time, Xiao Su picked up a piece of garlic pork ribs from the plate and placed it in Chu Qingyin's bowl. Chu Qingyin also didn't forget to add vegetables to his bowl. To the two of them, this action was already something that they were used to. When Xiao Ran saw this, he also added a large chopstick of shredded pork with garlic sauce and placed it in Chu Qingyin's bowl, not forgetting to say to her, You're too thin, eat more. This was the first time someone other than her parents and Big Ice Cube had added vegetables to her bowl. She was a little stunned, then she smiled. Girls always think that they are fat and are always slimming down. Thank you for your shredded pork with garlic sauce. Then she buried her head and continued eating. At this time, Xiao Ran felt a little indignant. Qingyin, why are you putting food in eldest brother's bowl and not for me? Was actually asking for fair treatment? Chu Qingyin's eyes blinked, not knowing what to say. At this time, Xiao ran to ask, Don't have your own hands? Xiao ran for him. For him, he was for me, but before he could finish speaking, Xiao Su continued, It's good that you have them. Ian doesn't like to eat other people's saliva, so you can eat yours. Xiao Ran was stunned when he heard this. But didn't the little lass also eat the food that you put in her bowl earlier? Why are only the officials allowed to set fires, but not the common people? But since his eldest brother had already said it, he couldn't say anything else and could only eat in silence. Just at this time, Hualing came in and walked to Xiao Su's side to report, Master, a eunuch came from the palace. He said that Her Highness Consort, you sent him to find His Highness the Fourth Prince. When he finished speaking, Xiao Ran's chopsticks paused, and an impatient expression appeared on his face. Can't you let me eat properly? He had already given instructions in the palace, So why did his mother still send someone to find him? He wasn't a 3-year-old child anymore. He had finally met Qin Yin, and he hadn't spent enough time with her yet. Moreover, like this, he wouldn't be able to leave a good impression on her. Qing must still think that he hadn't grown up and needed someone to take care of him at any time. Xiao Su looked at Xiao Ran and said to Hualing, "Have the eunuch wait for a bit. Tell him that His Highness the Fourth Prince will return after eating." After Hualing agreed, he quickly left. Xiao Ran ate the rice in his bowl, and his mood to eat was ruined. He casually ate a few mouthfuls and said that he was full. "Eldest brother, Qing Yin, I'm going back to the palace first. I'll come find you next time. Be careful on the road." Qing Yin gave him a sympathetic look. Xiao Ran wasn't in the mood, so he just nodded and stood up to leave. After Xiao Ran's figure disappeared into the night, Qing Yin leaned over to the person beside her. "Big Ice Cube, you seem to be competing with Xiao Ran just now." She dragged out the last syllable, and her tone was quite mischievous. Xiao Su's brows twitched. "Don't let your imagination run wild." "All right, I'm letting my imagination run wild." She shrugged, but her tone wasn't like this. This Big Ice Cube, he really wanted to save face. When Xiao Ran was picking up food for her, his eyes seemed to be able to see through her. When Xiao Su heard this, black lines appeared on his forehead. Qing Yin didn't probe any further. She knew that she had to give a man face. Sometimes it was better to see through it than to say it. "I feel that Xiao Ran is a bit pitiful. Does his consort mother have a son complex? Otherwise, why would she always protect him so tightly? Normally speaking, raising a son from a poor family and raising a daughter from a rich family, shouldn't a boy be allowed to grow and train by himself? Why is this consort you not allowing this and that? It's so strange." Towards this matter, Qing Yin found it a little hard to understand. At this moment, Xiao Su thoughtfully repeated her words. "Raising a son from a poor family and raising a daughter from a rich family. I'll remember this sentence." When Qing Yin heard his words that didn't make sense, she was completely confused. "Why are you remembering this? How to raise a child?" Xiao Su threw this sentence at her lightly. After saying that, she instantly understood, and the heat on her face immediately rose. She averted her gaze, not daring to look at him. "I'm talking about serious matters with you. Why are you so indecent?" Xiao Su's lips curved slightly. "Don't tell me this matter isn't serious?" Qing Yin's face became even hotter. "Who wants to give birth to your child? You can give birth yourself." Xiao Su chuckled. Qing Yin turned her head and glared fiercely at him. "What are you laughing at?" Xiao Su, on the other hand, laughed even more heartily. It turned out that teasing his little meow was so fun. Qing Yin ignored him and buried her head in her food. However, as she ate, the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up. Children? Giving birth to a child of her and Big Ice Cube. Just thinking about it warmed her heart. After the soup and rice, Qing Yin rubbed her belly without caring about her image. "Huang Yi's cooking is still the best. I've unknowingly eaten 2 bowls of rice. If you like, you can bring her along when you leave in the future," Xiao Su suggested. Qing Yin nodded without thinking. "That's a good idea." Xiao Su smiled. At this moment, Turin came in and walked to his side. He lowered his head and said a few words to him before leaving. She blinked. "What did Turin whisper to you just now?" Xiao Su looked up. "I'm bringing you to meet someone." "Who?" Her interest was piqued. Xiao Su didn't play riddles with her. "The person you've been thinking about, Water Spirit." Qing Yin's eyes lit up. She had only heard of Shui Ling's name, but had never seen her before. She had been itching to meet this beauty for a while now. Without any explanation, she stood up and said, all right. Let's go." As she spoke, she took his hand. Xiao Su found it funny. Since when was his subordinate more popular than him? "I've just eaten, walk slowly." I know. Big Ice Cube, you're getting more and more naggy." Chapter 10:16. When the two arrived at the study, there was already someone inside. Just as they stepped through the doorway, Turin saw the two and lowered his eyes. "Master, little Princess Fei, Water Spirit is here." When he finished, Qing Yin looked over. A woman in a pine green dress, standing under the light gracefully, turned around upon hearing the sound. Powder melted, fragrant snow penetrated through the light muslin, and the makeup on her face was as beautiful as a lotus flower. Chu Qingyan was dazed by the woman's bright and moving smile in front of her. Water Spirit put her hands on her waist and bowed to the two masters. "Master, little Princess Fei, Water Spirit greets you." Her voice was sweet and moving like the tinkling of jewels, pleasant to the ear, low and gentle. Chu Qingyan had seen many beauties, like the grand and bright Yen Luo, like the beautiful and delicate Xiao Li, or like the elegant and refined Sima, but she had never seen a woman who could combine purity and charm so naturally. When she saw Water Spirit, she knew what it meant to have a beautiful person, as beautiful as Qingyang. Beautiful appearance, sweet smile, and charming heart. Xiao Su knew his little meow's nature. When she saw a beautiful woman, her eyes would stare straight. He shook his head and let Water Spirit stand up first. If he wanted the little fellow to speak, he had to wait for her to regain her senses. Water Spirit stood up and felt the little Princess Fei's unblinking gaze. She gave a gentle smile and took out a wooden box from her sleeve. She came forward and presented it to the little Princess Fei, smiling respectfully. "Little Princess Fei, this is a gift from Water Spirit on behalf of the Xiao Lai Cavalry. Water Spirit knows that with those rough men's hearts, they would not think of such things, so this gift was sent late. Please do not take offense." She did not expect to receive a gift from a beauty. Chu Qingyan was elated. She took the box and said embarrassedly, "You see, I did not prepare a gift. It's too rude." Water Spirit smiled sweetly when she heard this. She turned to say to her mistress, "Little Princess Consort is really too cute. You've picked up a treasure for us." "Come to think of it, it's not your treasure." Xiao Su sat down behind the desk and glanced at her. Water Spirit covered her mouth and smiled. She said to Chu Qingyan, "You see, ever since my master met you, she has changed completely. She even has such a strong possessiveness. It's really an eye-opener." Chu Qingyan was still a little reserved just now. After all, the person in front of her was a great beauty. However, her continuous words changed Chu Qingyan's impression of her. What an interesting woman. She also chuckled. "Are you planning to go to the border for a walk?" A domineering voice followed. "Mistress, this subordinate still has many things to do. You can't be so heartless as to send this subordinate to the border." Water Spirit immediately put away her joking appearance and stood upright. In Chu Qingyan's eyes, it was as if she had changed from a free and unrestrained woman to an elite white-collar worker in Chengdu. This ability to change her face was something she could not compare to. Chu Qingyan did not know that Water Spirit was an all-round intelligence collector. She also mingled in romantic places. What she was best at was observing people's expressions. She was smooth and slick and was good at disguising. One person had 1,000 faces, and 1,000 faces were all different. Xiao Su glanced at her indifferently. Water Spirit immediately received the information in her mistress's eyes and quickly reported. "Mistress, recently, our people have found that Consort Yu has been in frequent contact with some mysterious people. However, the other party's movements are too secretive. Our people are afraid of exposing our tracks, so we do not dare to get too close. Right now, we can only find this much." Xiao Su's slender fingers lightly tapped on the table. His expression was unclear as he said, "Continue. Ever since you returned to the capital, the Empress has often summoned the left Prime Minister to the palace to discuss how to keep you in the capital." Xiao Su's gaze was indifferent. This prince has already expected this. At this time, Chu Qingyan walked to the table and stood there, quietly listening to the conversation between the two. "Then what should we do next?" Water Spirit asked in confusion. "You don't have to spend too much effort on Consort Yu's matters for now. You just have to send people to follow her and don't let them discover you. As for Imperial Mother's matters, you can continue to investigate. If there are any movements, immediately send someone to report." He did not like to have too much interaction with Consort Yu. As long as she did not do anything outrageous or threaten the safety of him and the little fellow, he would not interfere. However, He was somewhat worried that Imperial Mother would become the biggest obstacle to him leaving the capital. This was because when he entered the palace this time, he could clearly feel the urgency of Imperial Mother's struggle for power. This kind of Imperial Mother was a very unsettling factor. This subordinate understands. Water Spirit nodded. If there are any movements at Fuli Mountain Range, immediately clean it up. No news can be transmitted to the capital. Our movements in Jiangnan also need to be wiped out. We can't let people with ulterior motives find out. Xiao thought for a moment and then instructed. Understood. When we return tonight, this subordinate will strengthen the manpower in this area and pay close attention. Water Spirit agreed. While Water Spirit and Big Ice Cube were talking back and forth, Chu Qingyan stood to the side and carefully observed her. It was because in these past few years, her impression of Water Spirit was only that name. But when she heard the name, she felt comfortable. Now that she saw her, she realized that a beautiful person could also be so intelligent, capable, valiant, and formidable. That's right. How could the fierce cavalry under Big Ice Cube cultivate a delicate flower vase? Even if she was a woman, she was still a strong woman. However, when she saw Water Spirit, she could not help but think of the words Turin said at Ci Shui Slope. Water Spirit, who had lost her lover, was still able to endure that period of time and live well. This was not easy. Her eyes could not help but reveal a trace of pity, and the serious Water Spirit seemed to have sensed her young princess gaze. She turned to look at her, and her charming face revealed a smile, revealing a clean and pure smile. Chu Qingyan was stunned by this smile, and also returned a gentle smile. Master, the young princess is smiling at me. Water Spirit was flattered and shouted at her master. Xiao's eyes twitched. An unreliable subordinate, and a little fellow who was throwing flirtatious glances at him. This scene made the Fire Spirit and Turin unable to hold back their laughter. Hua Ling stood up with a smile. Master, this time Water Spirit came to share a piece of good news with us. After saying this, he turned to Water Spirit. What are you in a daze for? Hurry up and say it. Water Spirit then reacted, and under the gazes of her two masters, she sighed with emotion and smiled. Some time ago, Pigeon Feather found Divine, Dr. Luo's whereabouts, and told Miss Chung. After that, we lost their news. But 3 days ago, Pigeon Feather received news that Ethereal was out of danger. When she said this, Xiao and Chu Qingyan looked at each other and saw joy in each other's eyes. Today, there was no better news than this. Chapter 10:17. This news was a joyous occasion for Chu Qingyan. She had been worried about this matter for a long time. Now that she knew that Ethereal was safe, she couldn't help but want to cry. This was not only for Ethereal, but also for Yin Luo. This pair of enemies who had missed each other so many times finally didn't miss each other forever. Water Spirit allowed her to calm down when she saw how emotional the young princess was. Then she continued, however, Pigeon Feather said that although Ethereal is out of danger, she is still in a coma due to her severe injuries. When she will wake up depends on the will of the heavens. This sentence undoubtedly caused the entire room to fall into a silent atmosphere. Xiao frowned slightly. Finally, he reached out and patted the hand of the person beside him. This is already the best outcome. Nothing can be forced. When Chu Qingyan heard this, she finally managed to dispel the worry in her heart. She nodded and said, "That's right. I believe that Kongling will be able to survive this crisis and will definitely wake up. As long as a person has a strong will to survive, they will be able to overcome their illness." Because of her words, everyone relaxed their brows. They believed that Ethereal would not disappoint them. After Water Spirit and the others left, Chu Qingyan leaned against the table with a thoughtful expression. Xiao flipped through the letters sent by Water Spirit and asked casually, "Are you still feeling upset?" "A little upset, but more than that, I'm lamenting." "Lamenting about what?" He looked at her. Chu Qingyan leaned sideways and lowered her head to look into his eyes. Then, she slowly said, "Sometimes I complain that the heavens are unfair. They let good people suffer while the bad people are free. However, after experiencing so many things, I feel that the heavens are often fair. It's just that we have neglected them. Ethereal was able to walk out of the gates of hell. Although she's still unconscious, it's already the greatest blessing for me. Nothing is more important than being alive. After Chu Qingyin said this, she tilted her head slightly and looked at him, her eyes crinkling. So, I feel that it doesn't matter if we fail, get hurt, get frustrated, quarrel, or break up. As long as we're still alive, we can still work hard to do what we want to do and reunite with the person we want to be with. Don't you think so, Big Ice Cube? While she was speaking, Xiao Su had been listening to her from start to finish. Because of her words, there were slight ripples in his heart, as if something had resonated with him. Ian. He reached out to touch her face, and a smile slowly appeared on his face. You always surprise people. The melancholy she had felt earlier vanished into thin air because of his words. She raised her hand to cover his hand and smiled gently. Because of you. At this moment, it was Xiao Su's turn to look puzzled. Chu Qingyan smiled. When three people walk together, there's bound to be something I can learn from. Although there are only two of us, I feel that I've learned a lot by being by your side. Now I finally believe that being alone is pretty good. If one more person can make you better, then it means that you're a relatively static couple or partner. Why do you say that? Because you've made me better. We support each other and improve together. This way, we won't be separated because the other party can't catch up or walk too fast. You have something that I don't have. When I get close to you, it means that I'm constantly growing and improving. It's you who open my eyes to many things in this world. So, my change is because of you. Before I met you, I wasn't this strong. I was also a little girl who was afraid of trouble. But when the heavens arrange for a strong and patient person who looks strong on the outside, but is lonely on the inside for you, you can only become outstanding and strong to have the ability to walk in front of him. Xiao Su watched her speak with assurance. When she spoke about the emotional parts, her eyes sparkled. It was like 5 years ago, when a shining star appeared in his gloomy life. Then, it shone on him and accompanied him through the most difficult times of the past few years. Me too. Because of you, I learned to slow down my pace and appreciate the beautiful scenery around me. You also taught me how to love a person. The two of them were moved. They pressed their foreheads against each other and slowly smiled. Life, it was fine to live alone. If it was better to have one more person, then they should be together. If 1 + 1 was greater than 2, then that was happiness. The curtain of night covered the sky. Inside the palace, it was cold and silent. Xiao Ran had just returned to the palace when his lady mother's people arrived and told him to immediately go to the Moon Palace. Xiao Ran's face darkened slightly. He then sent the people away. After sitting in the hall for a while, as if he had made a decision, he brought Sangyu to the Moon Palace. As soon as he entered the Moon Palace, he saw his lady mother sitting in the main seat with a gloomy expression. He pursed his lips and walked up to her to give a bow. Greetings to Lady Mother. Greetings? Ranner, do you still have this Lady Mother in your eyes? Consort Yu's cold and sarcastic words were thrown at him. Xiao Ran lowered his head even more. Lady Mother, I don't know why you say that. Are you still playing dumb with me? Imperial concubine, you was so angry that her liver hurt. Tell me, today your imperial father sent you to greet the 3 armies. This is a good time to win over these generals, but you actually forgot all about the proper business and only cared about your daydreams. Xiao Ran was silent. He really had done something wrong in this matter. Fine, let's not talk about this matter and talk about something else. You clearly know that the various factions in the court have been secretly competing with each other for a long time regarding the matter of the Crown Prince. Xiao Ran returned to the capital this time, so that the various factions could bide their time and observe His Majesty and Xiao Su's movements. But you actually ran to the King of England's residence and acted out a show of brotherly affection with Xiao Su. Do you know what your actions will make those officials who support you think? How can you live up to the path your lady mother painstakingly paved for you these past 10 years? When these words were said, Consort Yu felt even angrier. If it weren't for the palace maid beside her who promptly handed her tea, she was afraid that she would have choked on her words. Xiao Ran raised his head, his eyes full of disapproval. Lady Mother, although you've been talking about the matter of the Crown Prince for the past few years, I feels that this is Imperial Father's business. He can choose whoever he thinks is good. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not something we can control. What you? Consort you was so angry that she couldn't speak. Besides, I think that eldest brother is very capable. We brothers have deep affection for each other. This can't be changed, Xiao Ran said stubbornly. Consort you angrily shook her head. How can there be brotherly affection in the imperial family? Xiao Ran, are you trying to anger your lady mother to death? The two of them instantly fell silent. This was also the first time in many years that the two of them had argued with each other. Xiao Ran saw his lady mother's dark expression and was a bit afraid. But he felt that if there was a storm, then it should come more violently. In the end, he gritted his teeth and knelt in front of her. He raised his head and said resolutely, Lady Mother, I has a request. Speak. I want to marry Qin Yan. Chapter 10:18. This news was like a clap of thunder that exploded beside Consort Yu's ears. What did you say? She looked at her son in disbelief. Xiao Ran was originally a bit apprehensive, but after he spoke, he let go. He held his head high and puffed out his chest as he said to his Lady Mother, Lady Mother, I really like Qin Yan. In the past, you thought that I was a child, but now that she has returned to the capital and is standing in front of me, I can be more certain of my feelings. Thus, Lady Mother, please grant my wish. As soon as Xiao Ran said this, Jade Rabbit, who was a senior in the palace, immediately dismissed the palace servants and ordered people to guard the door and not let anyone in. She looked as if she was facing a great enemy. Xiao Ran, have you eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts, or have you been blinded by a fox's charm? She is your eldest brother's fiancée. The Emperor Emeritus has personally decreed this marriage, and your imperial father has personally written the decree. How can you say such disgraceful words? What do you think of your imperial father? What do you think of imperial grandfather? What do you think of Lady Mother? Consort you thought that he would forget the words she used to fool him back then as time passed, but she didn't expect him to remember them until now. Suddenly, she felt that the seeds she planted back then were now bearing fruit. However, Xiao Ran said disapprovingly, Lady Mother, don't be agitated. I can see that Qin Yan and eldest brother are bound together by this marriage contract. Otherwise, based on their age difference, the two of them would have no feelings for each other. Moreover, Imperial Father loves I so much. As long as I makes it clear to Imperial Father that this will not only save Qin Yan and eldest brother, but also fulfill I's wish. Wouldn't this be the best of both worlds? Slap. You still don't understand and still want to find your Imperial Father? Consort Yu's slap landed on his face. His face was burning with pain. Xiao Ran looked at her in disbelief. Mu Fei, you hit me? You actually hit me? You've never hit me since I was young? Consort Yu's heart clenched in pain at her son's words and his flushed face. Her son was the one who was hurting. However, this was not the time to be soft-hearted. She kept a straight face and looked coldly at the young man in front of her. Although he was not yet 20 years old, he was no longer immature and could take responsibility for his own life and future. She said earnestly, Ranner, perhaps you feel that Imperial Mother doesn't understand you and is hindering you from liking girls. However, Imperial Mother cannot stop you because you are pushing yourself onto the path of death. His mother's words successfully reduced half of his anger and grievance. He stared blankly at her. Consort Yu didn't look at him. She crossed her hands on her knees and looked into the distance. Although your imperial father dotes on you the most among all the princes, no matter how much he dotes on a child, he can't disregard social norms and steal his older brother's wife for you. Our Sichuan values filial piety and etiquette. If you act like this, how can you live up to your imperial father's years of nurturing you? Where did all your studies go? But, Imperial Mother, Qin Yan won't be happy with eldest brother. I really like her, so why can't you let us be together? Xiao Ran couldn't listen to a single word right now. From his point of view, his mother was trying to stop him. What's so good about that girl? She has no family background, and no wealth. What do you think she can bring you? Wait until you're old and your love wanes. Then you'll realize that it wasn't worth it for you to give up everything for her. Consort Yu shook her head. She felt that her son was too inexperienced. Hearing his imperial mother talk about the little girl like this, Xiao Ran couldn't accept it. Although Qingyan doesn't have what imperial mother says, those are just worldly possessions. I can give them to her. She's kind, brave, smart, and cute. Any one of these can be a reason why I like her. Everything imperial mother does is for your own good. I hope you can go back and think about it. Don't do anything that will harm your own interests. Consort Yu felt that she couldn't persuade her son in a short period of time. She might even get sick from anger. She might as well send him away so he wouldn't stab her in the heart. Xiao Ran still wanted to say something, but seeing his imperial mother's displeased expression, he closed his mouth. He covered his face as he walked out of the Moon Palace. When he stopped and looked back, his face was filled with determination. He wouldn't give up on Qingyan. After Xiao Ran left, Consort Yu supported her forehead with her hand. The anger on her face disappeared and was replaced by disappointment. Jade Rabbit handed her a teacup at the right time and comforted her. Your Majesty, don't be angry. His Highness might have said those words to you in a moment of impulse. His Highness usually listens to you and is very filial to you. These words caused Consort Yu's anger to rise again, but she wasn't angry at her son. I don't think he was being impulsive. He must have been possessed. This consort thought that Chu Qingyan was just a bit more decent looking, but unexpectedly, she's a vixen. She's truly skilled. Ranner only interacted with her 4 years ago, but she was able to make Ranner unable to forget her for so many years. In the past, Ranner was such an obedient child. Now that she's only returned to the capital for a day, Ranner is already openly going against this consort. If this goes on for too long, what will happen? The more Consort Yu thought about it, the angrier she became. She was so angry that her teeth itched. In the past, she didn't think much of Chu Qingyan, but now, she hated her so much that her teeth itched. It seemed that this person couldn't be left alive. She had to find an opportunity to get rid of her. Then, Your Highness, what should we do? Asked Jade Rabbit worriedly. When Consort Yu heard this, she suddenly chuckled. Her eyes sparkled as she revealed a smug look of understanding. Ranner is just young and impetuous. He doesn't have much experience in the world, and only has eyes for Chu Qingyan. If we arrange for a few beautiful girls to be in front of him right now, he'll forget who Chu Qingyan is. In the end, men are fickle in love and hard to be faithful. So Your Highness's meaning is? Consort Yu smoothed her hair as she said unhurriedly, the Minister of Rights has an only daughter. She's both pretty and talented. Also, her family background is just enough to match Xiao Ran. I heard from this consort's sister-in-law that the Minister of Rights' wife intends to have his daughter marry Ranner and is currently trying to make arrangements. Isn't this perfect? Jade Rabbit understood. So Your Highness wants His Highness to marry that young miss? Let's play matchmaker first. However, if she wants to be Ranner's official consort, she doesn't have the qualifications. At most, she'll be a side consort. It won't be hard on her. Consort Yu chuckled nonchalantly. This was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. A casual word from someone in a position of power could decide a girl's life. Your Highness is right, said Jade Rabbit respectfully. Have his consort's sister-in-law come into the palace right now. This consort has something to tell her. Yes. Also, have someone send some ice cubes to Ranner. Have him apply it on his face to reduce the swelling. In the end, he was still her son. Although she could bear to do it, her heart still ached. Yes. Chapter 1019. The celebration banquet was held in the evening, but in the afternoon, the inner courtyard of the King of England's residence was already in a mess. There was no other reason. Because the two masters had not returned for many years, the clothes in the residence were all outdated. The celebration banquet that the two masters were going to attend was very grand, and the time was especially tight, so they could only send people out to the shops to buy. Chu Qingyan sat in the room, her fingers tapping on the table as she pondered. Master, will the clothes bought in such a hurry be all right? Xiao she stood at the side, slightly puzzled. Jasper also looked at her master, waiting for her answer. Chu Qingyin's brows slightly furrowed. The clothes that were prepared in a hurry were, of course, not as good as the meticulously prepared clothes of others. It was a pity that when she went out this time, she mostly wore men's clothes, so she neglected the need for women's clothes when entering the capital. She had not been in the residence for many years and had grown a lot taller, so she could not wear the clothes she used to wear. It was really troublesome. In fact, she was not a person who cared about clothes, but this palace banquet was her first appearance in the capital. It was also the first time that she and the Big Ice Cube had attended a large-scale event together. She could not stand out, but she could not lose the Big Ice Cube's face. However, this matter could not be rushed. Xiao, go down and take a look. Have the people who went out come back? Chu Qingyin asked Xiao to go and find out. After Xiao left, Bai Yu spoke up. Mistress, no matter what you wear, you'll be able to outshine those young ladies from official families. There's no need to rush. At most, we'll just wear something casually and we'll be able to outshine the crowd. Jasper's thoughts were sometimes very simple, just like the sword in her hand, fast, accurate, and ruthless, without any fanciness. Chu Qingyin shook her head and explained with a chuckle. Jasper, have you heard of this saying? Where there are people, there are jianghu. Jianghu has its own rules. If we step into this jianghu, we have to abide by the rules of jianghu. She gazed at Jasper with a smile and continued. The capital is like a very complicated jianghu. The way the women dress and the way the men play here all have their own fashion. We can be different from them, but we can't be too unique and eye-catching if we want to keep a low profile and not attract attention. She didn't mind being unique, but she didn't want to cause trouble. The more dazzling, the more extraordinary a person was, the easier it was to attract people's attention. What she needed to do now was to wander around in front of people and then silently hide in the dark. She didn't have the intention to compete for beauty, nor did she have the ambition to fight for power and profit. Therefore, the only thing she could do was to treat herself as an inconspicuous but important concubine of the King of England. Jasper didn't quite understand her words, but Chu Qingyin didn't expect her to understand thoroughly. Some things had to be experienced by Jasper herself so that she could deeply understand the meaning of her words. Instead of a little joy, what came was a big ice block that was walking gracefully. Why are you here? Chu Qingyin stood up in surprise. It was almost time to enter the palace, so Big Ice Block should have many things to do. Xiao did not immediately answer her and waved his hand behind him. Huo Ling, who was following behind him, walked in front of her with a long black sandalwood box. This is... Chu Qingyin looked at the box in confusion. Little Princess Fei, won't you know when you open it? Huo Ling said with a smile. She turned to look at Big Ice Block and saw a faint smile of encouragement in his eyes. She nodded and then reached out to open the box. The first thing that entered her eyes was peach blossoms, and then there were gold and silver butterflies on top. They were very lifelike, like butterflies falling from peach blossoms. Chu Qingyin's eyes were instantly attracted by the things in the box. She was pleasantly surprised. This is for me? Seeing the joy in her eyes, such a simple joy, Xiao couldn't help curling his lips. He walked in front of her and revealed a gentle smile. This was sent by Water Spirit. She knew that you would be attending the palace banquet tonight, so she specially prepared it. Go and try it first to see if it fits. She's in the study. If it doesn't fit, you can give it to her to change later. Water Spirit really is a savior. I'm assured with her eyes, but I never thought that she would know how to change clothes. She really is multi-talented. Chu Qingyin took the box and handed it to Jasper, as she said in a shocked voice. Although Water Spirit is the only female among us 7 spirits, she is not any weaker than us men. Whether it is martial arts, zither, chess, poetry, calligraphy, or painting, she is proficient in them all. This little bit of mending clothes is nothing difficult for her. Huo Ling praised with a smile. Chu Qingyin couldn't help admiring Water Spirit. She really was a strange woman. However, her mood suddenly became a bit sad. If Feng Ling was still alive, how good would that be? Her sad mood was quickly suppressed. Then, under the direction of Big Ice Block, she took the clothes into the room to change. Xiao Su found a place to sit down in the room. After returning to the capital for 2 days, he had to take care of all the large and small matters in the army. There were also all kinds of matters in Lian City, so he didn't have much time to rest. Now that he came to this room filled with the little fellow's scent, he instantly relaxed. His body felt comfortable, and he couldn't help closing his eyes to rest. After half a cup of tea's worth of time, he heard footsteps on the ground and slowly opened his eyes. On the ground, there was a pair of white shoes with red and purple flowers embroidered on it. When she stood there, the layers of skirt covering a large part of it, only revealing the shoes. The light muslin skirt was decorated with peach branches, green leaves, and pink flowers. They were not scattered, but rather large clusters with butterflies flying around, making it look very pleasing to the eye. Going up, it was her slender waist that revealed her exquisite curves. On the right side of her chest was a large peach blossom. Looking at her entire person, she had a pure and beautiful charm. The peach blossom was like fire, moving people's hearts. Going up, it was that absolutely beautiful face. Right now, she was looking at him without knowing what to do. She was anxiously and expectantly waiting for his evaluation. The cute deep red contrasted with the light red. How is it? Does it look good? She pinched the corner of her skirt and twirled around in front of him with sparkling eyes. Xiao Su stared blankly. Hearing her words, he regained his senses and suddenly felt a headache. I don't really want you to wear this to the palace banquet. Although she didn't hear his direct evaluation, Chu Qingyan could see the amazement and admiration in his absent-minded eyes. Her heart was already as sweet as a honey pot that had been knocked over. However, this dress really suited her. When she looked in a mirror earlier, she felt that Water Spirit's eyesight was very good. Water Spirit was able to see all the good points on her body in an instant. Every part of her body was vividly reflected. Only, how about I change out of it? She didn't want to be too eye-catching. At this moment, a pair of hands pressed down on her shoulders. The words carried an unquestionable tone. Wear it. Why aren't you wearing it? You're my Xiao Su's woman. What's there to be ashamed of? Chapter 10:20. Xiao Su's domineering words that could not be questioned made Chu Qingyan deeply moved. Big ice cube, she called out in a low voice. In the capital, you don't need to deliberately hide yourself. I, Xiao Su, am not someone who can't protect my own woman. If someone looks down on you or disrespects you, you don't need to do anything. Remember, if anyone bullies you, come back and tell me. I will help you vent your anger. Xiao Su looked at her. She could feel that he was serious. But Big Ice Cube, if those people are all women, will you help me? Didn't you say that you never make a move against women? Xiao Su gave a low laugh. His voice was low and charming. Chu Qingyan almost lost herself in this low voice. I disdain to make a move against women, but how can I just watch you be bullied? Don't worry, I won't make a move against women, but they still have fathers and brothers. Who said that you have to beat people to vent your anger? The real way to seek justice is to rely on this. He raised his hand and pointed at his finger. In the circle of officials or nobles, it's very easy to make someone fall. I disdained to do this before, but that doesn't mean I don't know how to do it. Do what you want to do and leave the rear to me to protect you. Her bright eyes instantly turned into stars. Her heart was filled with excitement and moved. She reached out to hug him as her eyes turned red. Big Ice Cube, you're the best. When Chu Qingyan came out after changing her clothes, the people around her had already left the room. Right now, there was only the two of them left, so she was not afraid of being seen by others. Xiao Su hugged her back and gave a gentle smile. Silly girl, you deserve better. She couldn't help but smile at the way he treated her, as if she was a treasure. Big Ice Cube, you too. You deserve to be treasured by others. Xiao Su smiled. We'll be leaving for the palace in 2 hours, so you should quickly go and prepare. He patted her head and said in a pampering voice, I don't want to do my own hair. Help me do it. Her voice was filled with a strong, coquettish tone. Xiao Su couldn't do anything about it, and could only follow her wishes. When she sat down, he ran his fingers through her black hair and skillfully helped her divide the strands. In the past few years, he had been by her side. He would ask about everything from food and clothing to housing and transportation, which led to her sticking to him. She even handed over the matter of tying up her hair to him. Because of this, he evolved from a cold lord who only knew how to hold a sword and a pen to a qualified boyfriend who could even hold a comb and hairpin firmly. Chu Qingyan looked at the serious and meticulous person in the mirror, and the corners of her lips curled up in happiness. She allowed him to help her tie her hair into a bun, leaving 2 strands of hair on both sides of her cheeks. She looked dignified and charming. She gave him a thumbs up in satisfaction. "Big Ice Cube, you're a fast learner. I've only taught you this hairstyle once." Xiao Su inserted a gilded hairpin into both sides of her hair bun. He didn't bother to decorate the rest of her hair. He took a step back and examined her hair for a while. Then he said that he was done. Chu Qingyan stood up and reached out to touch her head. Then she gave him a sweet smile and said, "How is it?" "Not bad. Just this evaluation?" But Chu Qingyan thought about it. It was already not easy to hear these 2 words from the big Ice Cube's mouth, so she should be satisfied. In this era, men did not go into the kitchen and would not dress women. If it was known that the big Ice Cube was willing to do this for her, it would make people jealous to death. At this time, Hualing knocked on the door and came in to report to Xiao Su that a soldier had come to visit. Xiao Su patted her head and then left to deal with the matter. Seeing that Hualing was about to leave, Chu Qingyan called out to him. "Little princess consort, do you need something? Is water spirit still in the study? I want to personally thank her." Chu Qingyan lifted her skirt and wanted to follow him out. Hualing said with a smile when he heard this, "Little princess consort, water spirit left after learning that your clothes fit. Her identity is a bit special and she cannot appear in public. I ask for your forgiveness. So it's like this. All right, then help me pass on a message when you see her next time." Chu Qingyan felt a bit regretful. She wanted to use this chance to talk more with this delicate girl. "Don't worry, this subordinate will help you pass on the message. But you'll be in the capital for a long time, so you'll be able to see her often." Hualing finished speaking and bowed to leave. When the room returned to silence, Chu Qingyan walked back to the dressing table. Picking up a comb, she combed the hair on her chest bit by bit. Her eyes fell onto the mirror, and when she saw her reflection, she was a bit lost in thought. She didn't know what would happen at the palace banquet tonight. Time passed bit by bit, and it was soon time to go into the palace. Chu Qingyan followed Xiao Su's hand and got into the carriage. After sitting down, her sharp eyes saw several plates of pastries on the small tea table in the carriage. They were all her favorites. "You had someone prepare this?" She raised her head to look at the person that came in. Xiao Su looked over the table and then nodded. "Palace banquets usually don't have many bites, so you should fill your stomach first." She nodded and took a bite of a green bean cake. When the tip of her tongue touched the taste, she couldn't help exclaiming, "As expected, Huang Yi's cooking is good. I haven't eaten such delicious pastries in many years. Big Ice Cube, have a bite too." She did not avoid it and handed the pastry in her hand to him. Xiao Su did not touch sweets before meeting her, but after being fed by her, he would occasionally eat a few pieces. He did not refuse at this time and took a bite from her hand. Then he expressed his approval of her words. Chu Qingyan saw that he stopped eating after taking a bite, so she shrugged and started nibbling on her own. "Big Ice Cube, I haven't seen your imperial father and imperial mother for a long time. Will they reject me?" Those few assassinations, to her, were simply shocking. Now that she had not walked out of the shadow, just thinking about it made her feel scared. "Even if they reject you, it doesn't mean that they will like me. So we are about the same, about the same. You don't have to care too much." Xiao Su casually replied. Chu Qingyan deeply agreed. "All right, then for tonight's palace banquet, I will be by your side and will not cause you any trouble." Xiao Su habitually wanted to rub her head, but when he saw her makeup and hairstyle, he finally changed the direction of his hand and gently pinched her cheek. "Don't worry, I'm here." She felt that these words were sweeter than the lotus seed cake she ate. But sometimes, some trouble, even if you don't look for it, it will take the initiative to look for you. The street was bustling with activity, and the clamor of hawking slowly faded away. When the road became quieter, It meant that they were getting closer to the palace gates. That was the most dignified and mysterious place in the entire Sichuan, and also the place where it was estimated to be the most dark. When the carriage arrived in front of the palace gates, the two of them were about to alight when a voice suddenly sounded. Is the person sitting inside the carriage the general who pacifies the south, who made great contributions to the Sichuan this time? Chapter 1021. This voice was as carefree as the wind, as indifferent as the clouds, and as silent as the rain. Chu Qingyin faintly felt that she had heard this name somewhere before. When she looked up at the big ice cube, she saw a smile flash through his eyes. She was suddenly curious. Who was this person outside that could make the big ice cube reveal such a different expression from his usual indifference? The carriage curtain lifted, and Xiao Su got off the carriage. He turned and reached out to help Chu Qingyin down. When she steadied herself, he turned towards the direction of the voice. Second brother, how have you been? Eldest brother, long time no see. After this exchange, Chu Qingyin immediately recalled who this person was. She walked to Big Ice Cube side and looked up at him. He was leaning against the palace wall. He was wearing an ink-colored robe and had an unruly smile on his face. He was a handsome man. Xiao Yao, the second prince of Sichuan. He was also a prince that the Big Ice Cube was on good terms with. Oh, this must be little sister-in-law. We haven't seen each other for a few years, and you've changed 18 times between childhood and womanhood. You've become more beautiful. Xiao Yao's gaze landed on the woman beside his eldest brother. He sized her up and then greeted her warmly. Xiao Su gave him a cold look. Put away your glib tongue. Don't scare her. It's rare to see little sister-in-law. If I don't curry favor with her, what if she doesn't give me wine next time? Xiao Yao thought of the grape wine sent over from Jiangnan and couldn't help but lick the corner of his mouth. He looked like a drunkard. Be careful, and I'll deduct your wine. Xiao Su didn't negotiate at all. Xiao Yao raised his hands in surrender. Okay. I know you're protective. I'm serious. Finishing, he turned to look at Chu Qingyin and smiled amiably. Hello, little sister-in-law. Let me introduce myself. I'm Xiao Yao, ranked second. You can call me by my name. She was used to traveling outside and wasn't as fragile as the Big Ice Cube said. While she was surprised by Xiao Yao's warmth, she wasn't frightened by him. You don't have to be so courteous, second brother. I remember you. It's all thanks to your help that I got the drunken river flow. In the future, if you want to drink anything, just tell me. Since he was a person trusted by Ice Cube, Chu Qingyin was magnanimous, and so was Chu Qingyin. She didn't need to be polite. Therefore, Chu Qingyin also replied generously. Second brother? Ahem, this sister-in-law is really quite tactful. She called him young in an instant. Xiao Yao winked at her. Really? For real? Enough wine? That's enough. All right, I'll accept your call, second brother. In the future, if you want to go to Yihong Brothel or Ingchun Brothel, just come find me. I'll take you to indulge in debauchery. Xiao Yao was so happy that he blurted out the words he used to say to his bad friends. Unknowingly, he felt a chill run down his spine, so cold that it felt like it was about to freeze. He immediately stopped talking and smiled foolishly at the person behind him. Big brother, I was just joking. Xiao Su looked at him sinisterly. I'm taking it seriously. Chu Qingyin seized the opportunity to jump in. Immediately, a cold gaze swept towards his neck. Xiao Yao wailed in his heart and retreated several steps. Big brother, heaven and earth can be my witness. I didn't want to lead your little wife astray. Xiao Su didn't bother to bicker with him, while Chu Qingyin hid behind him and snickered. Second brother, it's getting late. Do you want to leave together? Chu Qingyin looked at the sparse crowd in the courtyard and couldn't help but suggest. Xiao Yao didn't dare to leave with them when his life was threatened just now. He immediately waved his hand. I still want to stay here for a while to look at the stars and admire the moon. You can leave first. Chu Qingyin glanced at the dark sky and nodded silently. When they were about to reach the palace gates, Chu Qingyin couldn't help but ask the person beside her, Is second prince so frightened by us that he doesn't dare to leave with us? She was probably referring to the Big Ice Cube. Xiao Su snorted. This second brother of mine isn't afraid of anything. Even if he pokes a hole in the sky, he can still sleep. Then, she didn't understand. He's just looking for an excuse not to go to the palace banquet so early. Xiao Su's voice lowered. After so many years, he still doesn't like officialdom and political situations. Chu Qingyin couldn't help but turn back. She saw that figure leaning against the palace wall, looking up at the dark night sky. His entire body seemed to be covered in a faint layer of something called aloofness. She didn't know why, but this sentence suddenly flashed through her mind. Loneliness is a person's revelry. Revelry is a person's loneliness. The people who had been greeting her warmly just now suddenly fell silent. This difference made her inexplicably worried. Don't worry about him. When it's time, he'll sneak in himself. Xiao Su's words pulled her back to reality. He's an invisible bully in the capital. He's the only one who can bully others. No one can bully him. So you don't have to worry about him. Xiao Su said mildly. Chu Qingyin instantly turned to look at the person beside her. He was looking straight ahead, his gaze not shifting at all. The big ice cube actually knew what she was thinking. I think second brother is a very good person. I want to interact with him more. Chu Qingyin blinked. This person was the big ice cube's brother. She felt that if the big ice cube liked and cared about him, she would also learn to like and care about him. Can't you see that he's already been bribed by your wine? In the future, if there's anything that isn't easy to handle, just let him do it. Xiao Su didn't feel the slightest bit of self-consciousness about betraying his younger brother. Chu Qingyin's eyes brightened. That's great. Meanwhile, a certain someone who was admiring himself under the palace wall sneezed for no reason. He rubbed his nose and muttered to himself, "Who's talking bad about me?" But very quickly, he answered his own question. In any case, I've offended many people. It doesn't matter. However, he seemed to have thought of something. He slapped his forehead and sighed in self-pity. I forgot to remind Big Brother of a few things. Indeed, when one gets old, one's memory is getting worse. Then, he comforted himself. Forget it, forget it. Even if you reminded him, it's useless. What's going to come will come. Big brother, little sister-in-law, take care. Because of the hot summer, the palace banquet was held in the well-ventilated imperial garden. With the accompaniment of birds and the evening breeze, it was a good place for a lively palace gathering. However, the imperial garden was some distance away from the palace gate. From afar, one could see a few figures hurrying along. On the other hand, Chu Qingyin and Xiao Su both had indifferent expressions. They weren't in a hurry at all as they walked slowly. However, as martial artists, their strides were naturally larger and faster than ordinary people. So very quickly, they caught up with the people in front of them who were hurrying along. Didn't I tell you before? Earlier. You just didn't listen and kept fiddling with your clothes and accessories. Seeing that the palace banquet is about to start, are you trying to get me killed? When they got closer, Chu Qingyin heard a young official reprimanding his female companion. From the looks of it, it seemed to be his wife. At this moment, that woman said coldly, "You've already said it 4 or 5 times. Hurry up and leave." Chu Qingyin originally didn't want to bother. At this time, it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. However, when she heard that female voice, she couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. This voice was somewhat familiar and gave her a bad feeling. Chapter 1022. This familiar voice seemed to bring back some bad memories. Chu Qingyin couldn't help but take a few more glances at that slim and graceful figure. However, the woman in front seemed to have sensed something and turned to look at her. However, when her gaze met with Chu Qingyin's, a hint of confusion appeared in the woman's eyes. It was as if she was trying to figure out who this person was. Then, her gaze turned to the person beside Chu Qingyin. When she touched that silver mask, Chu Qingyin clearly felt her entire body tremble. Even her expression became sluggish. It was as if she recognized the big ice cube. The woman suddenly stopped in her tracks and stared blankly at the big ice cube. Her gaze was fixed on him. There was an indescribable emotion in her eyes. Surprise, excitement, expectation, loneliness, desire, despair. Chu Qingyin was a little impressed. It was a pity that this woman wasn't an actress. In just a short moment, she was able to read so many emotions from that pair of eyes. If she wasn't familiar with the big ice cube's nature and knew that he had never interacted with a woman before, she would have thought that the big ice cube was a heartless person. Big ice cube, you know her? When they passed by the two, Chu Qingyin found that the woman was like a sunflower. Wherever her big ice cube went, she would follow. She could clearly feel that the man beside the woman was a little impatient, but the woman didn't notice it at all. Chu Qingyin couldn't help but ask. She was really too curious. Look at the road. Don't care about those things. Xiao didn't even bother to give an outsider a glance. Chu Qingyin stuck her tongue out at him. The big ice cube was right. They still had a tough battle to fight in the palace banquet. Right now, they had to conserve their energy. Everything else was not important. Thus, she followed his footsteps and quickly walked towards the Imperial Garden. Just now, because the two people were standing in the shadows, she didn't see who the woman was. When they reached the corner of the long corridor, Chu Qingyin inadvertently turned around and finally saw the woman's appearance. She was beautiful and dignified, with a scholarly aura. This person seemed to be the woman who made her feel uncomfortable. Xiao Yinruo. However, a huge question popped up. The young official beside her was her husband? She was married? However, Chu Qingyin thought about it. At that time, Yao Yinruo was already 14 or 15 years old. After so many years, it would be strange if she didn't get married. After all, in this era, it was very normal for women to get married at the age of 13 or 14. However, the way she looked at her just now was a little strange. After she looked at the big ice cube, when she looked at her again, there was a look of jealousy and anger. Chu Qingyin frowned. Just as she was about to think about it, she heard the sound of a string instrument getting closer and closer. She immediately collected her thoughts and waited seriously. When Xiao and Chu Qingyin disappeared around the corner, Yao Yinruo's side was having a dispute. Of 8. Why did you keep staring at that couple? We're here to attend the palace banquet, not for you to be distracted. Sang Yu was a bit anxious when he saw that she chose to remain silent again. Do you know who walked by just now? The words couple pierced her heart. She curled her lips, and a trace of coldness flashed through her eyes. Who? Sang Yu relaxed when he heard that she was willing to speak. He followed her words and asked. He, Yao Yinruo's eyes sparkled, is the hero who made countless contributions to Sichuan, the famous His Royal Highness. His Royal Highness? Sang Yu was stunned. Just now, he only cared about his wife and didn't pay attention to anyone else. Even when he looked at them, he only saw their backs. He didn't know who they were at all. That's right. He's the person Sichuan's commoners and the person all the civil and military officials look up to. Yao Yinruo's voice was full of worship. However, Sang Yu was still in a daze and didn't notice that his wife's expression wasn't right. He suddenly grabbed her hand and reprimanded her. Why didn't you tell me just now to let me pay respects to His Highness? This is such a rare opportunity. These words made Yao Yinruo feel a bit of disgust, but she couldn't show it too obviously. She pushed his hand away and smoothed out the creases on her clothes. Then, she recovered her calm tone and said, We should go. Otherwise, we'll be late for the palace banquet. Her words made Sang Yu come to his senses, and he immediately urged her to leave. Yao Yinruo's lips curled mockingly. How could this person who was too ambitious and didn't have any real ability compare to His Royal Highness? How could she have married this kind of person? Chu Qingyin was no longer in her line of sight. A haze flashed through her eyes. How could this Chu Qingyin have the right to stand by His Highness' side? Her eyes were filled with hatred. The Imperial Garden was filled with the liveliness of victory. At this moment, a loud voice rang out. His Royal Highness, Miss Chu, has arrived. As soon as these words were spoken, the noisy garden gradually quieted down. Because the main character had arrived. The god of war who had left for 4 years without any news. Then, like a savior, he descended on the battlefield and slaughtered the enemy until they threw away their helmets and armor. He was about to return. Everyone raised their heads in anticipation, waiting anxiously to catch a glimpse of that person's elegant demeanor. As expected, not long after the eunuch's voice rang out, two figures appeared in everyone's line of sight. The silver-masked man was dressed in a simple and luxurious black robe. He had an extraordinary temperament, and his expression was as cold as ever. He slowly walked into the imperial garden like a god descending from the heavens. In an instant, everyone held their breaths. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly, as if they were afraid of blaspheming this noble god. Everyone probably had the same thought in their hearts. His Royal Highness was still as noble and cold as ever. However, just as they were about to withdraw their gazes, they suddenly noticed a young girl standing beside him. She was dressed in a pink brocade dress and was surrounded by flowers, but it didn't steal the girl's brilliance. Instead, it served as a foil to the girl's appearance, making her even more beautiful than flowers. Just one look was enough to make people fall head over heels for her. Her watery eyes were quick-witted and crafty, making people think of a lazy cat or a cunning fox. Her long black hair was tied up in a simple bun. Although there were only 2 gold hairpins in it, it had a fresh and refined appearance. However, her expression was natural and unrestrained. Her bearing was elegant and her temperament was outstanding. She had a dignity that noble ladies didn't have. Even princesses and concubines didn't have her aura. She was young, but she had a stunning appearance. Her bearing was calm and collected. Who was this person? Why hadn't they seen her in the capital? Wait, everyone suddenly remembered the eunuch's words. Miss Chu? Wasn't she the unlucky girl from the Chu family who was betrothed to His Royal Highness by the retired emperor? The wind blew the fragrance of flowers. The phoenix's nirvana came against the wind. Chapter 10:23. So the person in front of them was Chu Qingyan, the young miss of the downtrodden Chu family that they looked down upon. Everyone subconsciously chose not to believe it. Humans are like this. When your expectations exceed your expectations, you will want to deceive yourself and others. Once these people are used to being high and mighty, they will reject reality. However, the person in front of them was right in front of them. Even if they wanted to deny it, it was impossible. Especially those unmarried women who had followed their families to the palace banquet. When their gazes landed on Chu Qingyan, they could not shift their gazes away. Envy, amazement, jealousy, hatred, all of these were present. Chu Qingyan had long been accustomed to such intense gazes. Otherwise, how could she lead troops in a battle? These people were not even 1,000th of the enemy's forces. Under everyone's gazes, Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan walked towards their seats under the guidance of a eunuch, as if there was no one around them. On the short journey, the left minister's faction, the officials who wanted to curry favor with them, and the soldiers who had followed the army into the capital all politely greeted the two of them. Xiao Su only nodded slightly with a calm expression. Other than when he defeated the Southern Blue soldiers, his attitude had softened. The rest of the time, he had an unapproachable appearance. Chu Qingyan, on the other hand, maintained her standard smile. She had spent the past 2 days learning her etiquette, and no one would be able to find fault with her. At this time, Yao Yinruo and Sang Yu had also arrived at the Imperial Garden. Yao Yinruo's gaze immediately locked onto the two figures. Her worshipful gaze moved away from Xiao Su and landed on Chu Qingyan. In an instant, it turned into jealousy and hatred. Why am I not the one who is standing next to him and enjoying everyone's love and respect? Yinruo, let's go sit down. Sang Yu looked at his dazed wife with confusion and impatience. Yao Yinruo withdrew her expression and gracefully followed him to their seats. She no longer looked in the direction that everyone was looking at. At this time, she had to disguise herself and not let anyone discover her thoughts. At this time, a few tables were whispering to each other. This is His Royal Highness? He's so tall and mighty, but he's wearing a mask on his face, so we can't see anything. Yu Tianyue whispered to the person beside her in surprise. Because Yu Yezhou and the Grand Scribe Qi Tianyi were good friends, their tables were next to each other. Therefore, Yu Tianyue and Qi Lingyi were sitting next to each other. At this time, Yu Qinyue's words did not attract Qi Lingyi's attention, because at this time, her eyes fell on a figure not far away. So he was the man she fell in love with at first sight. Sichuan's god of war, General Ping Nan, the King of England, Xiao Su. Qi Lingyi's eyes sparkled, revealing a glow that was different from her usual scholarly appearance. It added some elegance to her appearance. At this time, Yu Tianyue realized that after talking for a long time, the person beside her did not respond. She could not help but turn to look at her. However, Yu Tianyue, who had always been careless, did not notice her abnormality. She thought that she usually liked silence and did not like such a crowded place, so she tugged at her. "Sister Lingyi, why are you in a daze?" Yu Tianyue asked in confusion. Qi Lingyi seemed to be frightened and immediately looked away. Her expression flickered as she turned to the person beside her. "Nothing, just a little stuffy." Yu Tianyue smiled and comforted her. "Bear with it, you can go back later." Qi Lingyi responded absent-mindedly. "Sister Lingyi, do you see the girl standing beside His Royal Highness? She's so beautiful. In the capital, I haven't seen a more spirited and beautiful girl than her." After hearing her words, Qi Lingyi noticed Chu Qingyan standing beside Xiao Su. "Who is she?" she frowned in confusion. After confirming that the person she saw at the tea house that day was Xiao Su, she was curious about everything about him and could not wait to know everything. Yu Tianyue did not notice the difference in her tone and continued to smile innocently. "No wonder you don't know. You've been reading so much that you've almost become stupid. Why would you pay attention to the gossip around you? That person is His Highness King Ying's fiancée. 5 years ago, His Majesty personally bestowed the marriage upon her. This honor is something that very few people have had in recent years." "He has a fiancée?" This made Qi Lingyi's eyes widen instantly. As if the door to gossip had been opened, Yu Tianyue began to talk nonstop. "I heard that there are many stories behind this bestowal of marriage. One of the more credible versions is that the King of England was young and promising. Her Majesty the Empress had arranged a marriage for him a long time ago. But for some reason, every woman who was engaged to the King of England would meet with an accident and die. As time passed, and the number of occurrences increased, rumors began to circulate in the capital that His Royal Highness had jinxed his wife. How is that possible? He's the war god hero. How could he jinx his wife?" Qi Lingyi was somewhat indignant. Qi Lingyi's reaction made Yu Tianyue jump in fright. "Sister, what's wrong with you? Why are you so agitated?" Yu Tianyue's words made Qi Lingyi immediately come to her senses. She stammered, "No, I just feel that it's very immoral to say that about our war god hero." Yu Tianyue nodded and agreed. "You're right. But I heard that at that time, no one in the entire capital dared to marry their daughter to the King of England. They were afraid that she would die before she could marry him." "Then, this Miss Chu is?" Qi Lingyi's face was filled with curiosity. Here's the main point. Later, the retired emperor did a divination for the King of England. He seemed to have said that Miss Chu's life was tough or something, so His Majesty issued an imperial edict for the two of them to marry. But at that time, Miss Chu was only 10 years old. Now that 5 years have passed, she should be 15, about the same age as us. Yu Qinyue's words made Qi Lingyi's heart skip a beat. Her gaze turned to the girl and read not far away. She was 15 years old, the same age as her. And you know what? For years ago, she left the capital with the King of England. There's been no news of her for the past few years. But I feel that even with this imperial edict, His Royal Highness doesn't seem to like her that much." Yu Tianyue propped up her chin and said in all seriousness. This sentence successfully attracted Qi Lingyi's attention. She quickly asked why. "Because His Royal Highness's temperament of not getting close to women is the same as his reputation as the god of war. Everyone knows that. So, this His Royal Highness can only be admired from afar and not touched." Yu Tianyue shook her head as she spoke. "Tianyue, are you sure that His Royal Highness doesn't get close to women?" "I'm sure." "Then how do you explain this?" Qi Lingyi stammered as she pointed in a direction not far away. "What?" Yu Tianyue turned her head in confusion and followed Qi Lingyi's gaze. Heavens, what was that rumored to be cold and emotionless god of war doing? He was tidying up his little fiancée's makeup. Tidying up. Makeup. Please tell me that I'm blind. This can't be true. Chapter 1024. At this time, the two people who were the center of attention were talking as if no one else was present. I shouldn't have asked you to help me do my hair for such an important occasion. Look, almost fell apart. She lightly snorted. Xiao Su was helping her fix her hair and reinsert the gold hairpin. Hearing this, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Who was it that rolled around in the carriage on the road? HM? Chu Qingyan instantly felt guilty. Then she pretended to smile and said, Big Ice Cube, look, there are so many people. There are always so many people at the palace banquet. Xiao Su really wanted to laugh when he heard her change the topic so abruptly. Chu Qingyan swallowed. Why was the big ice cube like this? He didn't even give her a way out. Sitting slightly below Chu Qingyan was the Minister of War, Meng Xian, and his family. Among them was Meng Shishu. Although she had never seen Xiao Su before, other than a quick glance at the tea house when the three armies returned, her gaze had never left him since he came in. He matched her fantasy of him for so many years. In other words, he was more outstanding and charming than she had expected. He was completely incomparable to those thin and weak men in the capital. However, seeing him ignore everyone's gazes and intimately look at Chu Qingyan beside him, other than being shocked, she was also jealous. That Chu Qingyan, what right did she have to sit beside him? Just as she was feeling indignant, a sharp voice sounded. His Majesty has arrived, Her Majesty the Empress has arrived, and Consort Yu has arrived. Everyone stood up. When the three appeared, they all knelt on the ground. Greetings to His Majesty. Long live His Majesty. Greetings to Her Majesty the Empress. Long live Her Majesty. Congratulatory voices sounded one after another. The West Xian Emperor was dressed in bright yellow and was incomparably dignified. He stood to the left and right of Empress Liang and Imperial Concubine Moon. Then, he lifted his robes and sat on the main seat. Empress Liang and Imperial Concubine Moon followed him to sit on either side. Sichuan Emperor swept his gaze across the crowd before raising his hand. My beloved subjects, please rise and sit. Tonight's banquet is mainly to celebrate the victory of the three armies. There's no need to stand on ceremony. Thank you, Your Majesty. After everyone got up, they returned to their seats. It's almost time. Everyone is here. Let's start the banquet, Sichuan Emperor said with a smile. As soon as the order was given, the palace servants who had been prepared long ago came up with dishes and delicacies. The dancers in dance costumes also came up one after another and gracefully danced in the center of the venue. Suddenly, the garden was filled with the fragrance of flowers, food, wind, and music. It was lively and cheerful. Sichuan Emperor raised his wine cup to Xiao Su and said to the crowd, "Fill up the wine cups. Let's celebrate the heroes of this great battle." The civil and military officials all stood up and raised their cups to Xiao Su. Xiao Su also stood up, but the wine cup in his hand was turned to the generals beside him. I don't dare to claim credit for this battle. Everyone worked together to win this battle. Thus, this cup of wine should be a toast to our sons. Feng Lu, Gao Hao, and the others immediately stood up in fear and trepidation. Sichuan Emperor nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. This time, it's all thanks to your sacrifice for Sichuan. Come, let us toast you. Thank you, Your Majesty. Everyone raised their cups and drank to their heart's content. After 3 rounds of wine, Sichuan Emperor put down his wine cup and noticed Chu Qingyan sitting next to Xiao Su. A trace of surprise flashed through his eyes. The little girl from back then had actually grown up to become like this. It was somewhat beyond his expectations. This must be Qingyan girl. I haven't seen you in so many years. You've grown up, grown taller, and even more beautiful. You're simply going to outshine all the flowers in this garden. Sichuan Emperor stroked his chin and didn't conceal his praise. There were already many gazes on Chu Qingyan. With His Majesty's words, these people could openly look at her. Their gazes were sizing her up, judging her, harboring ill intentions, and coveting her. Chu Qingyan laughed mockingly in her heart. She didn't know if Sichuan Emperor's words were intentional or not, but there was no doubt that he had already drawn hatred towards her. This was because the gazes of the women present were now looking at her with increased hostility. Which woman wasn't conceited? How could they tolerate others being prettier than them? Compared to the first time she met Sichuan Emperor, Chu Qingyan had seen many grand occasions this time and was more confident in her heart. She obediently lowered her eyes and revealed a bashful expression. Your Majesty is too kind. All the madams and young misses present are prettier than Qingyan. Qingyan doesn't deserve this reputation. Her modest and gentle personality instantly won her back a lot of points. The pressure on her body instantly lessened by a lot. Sichuan Emperor nodded. She's a sensible and quick-witted girl. Su you have to cherish her. Just when everyone thought that Xiao Su wouldn't answer, Xiao Su unexpectedly nodded and said in a firm tone, I will. These words stunned Sichuan Emperor for a moment. Then, his gaze deepened before moving away from Chu Qingyan. At this moment, Empress Liang and consort Yu also noticed Chu Qingyan. Empress Liang, who had always been arrogant, had to admit that she had never seen such an outstanding beauty in all these years. It was no wonder that Su had fallen out with his imperial mother for her all these years. When Empress Liang thought of this, her entire face darkened. She also didn't have a good impression of Chu Qingyan. Consort Yu carefully sized up Chu Qingyan a few times and nodded slightly. Her appearance was excellent. It was normal for Ran'er to be captivated by her. After all, there wasn't a woman as beautiful as her in the capital. She changed her mind. If Xiao Su fell and Ran'er still remembered her as his imperial mother, she could fulfill his wish and let Chu Qingyan stay by his side. However, she wouldn't have a status. Chu Qingyan didn't know that in the blink of an eye, the two most powerful women in Sichuan had made two different decisions for her. And it was because of these two people that her life changed unexpectedly. At this moment, Sichuan Emperor had already continued to chat with the other officials. Chu Qingyan finally dared to breathe a sigh of relief. She lowered her head and whispered in the ear of the person next to her, Big ice block, I thought you wouldn't say anything just now. Why are you thinking so much? Just eat your food. As he spoke, he picked up a piece of her favorite food and placed it in her bowl. Chu Qingyan didn't say anything else. She smiled and prepared to bury her head in eating her food. The intimate interaction between the two, as if no one else was around, fell into the eyes of some people, and they were burning with jealousy. At this moment, someone stood up. Your Majesty, the atmosphere tonight is so good. There are so many people here, so it should be lively. So, this subject has a presumptuous request. The sudden female voice attracted everyone's attention, except for the couple who were burying their heads in peeling and eating prawns. You're such a strange girl. All right, we'll allow it. Speak, Sichuan Emperor said generously. This subject knows that young Miss Chu hasn't been in the capital for many years. I don't know if her zither, chess, poetry, calligraphy, and painting skills are different from those of us girls in the capital. This subject wants to ask her for guidance. Chapter 1025. Chu Qingyan, who was eating a lobster that had been peeled with ice, froze when she heard her name. Then, she looked over in confusion. She was a rather handsome girl, but she didn't know who she was. Chu Qingyan was a little confused. Are you talking about me? The girl nodded and smiled very politely. I'm talking about you, Miss Chu. Oh, who are you? The other party was obviously here to pick a fight. Chu Qingyan raised her eyes and sneered. The moment Chu Qingyan finished speaking, her smile froze on her face. This person actually dared to ask for her name so brazenly. He had no manners at all. At this moment, Sichuan Emperor interrupted. He rubbed his chin and smiled as he introduced the girl to Chu Qingyan. Qingyan girl, this is the daughter of the Minister of War, Meng Shu. She usually likes to practice swords and sabers. Her martial arts skills are considered one of the best among the girls in the capital. Meng Shu proudly raised her chin when she heard this. It was an honor to be introduced by Sichuan Emperor in such a way. She immediately received the envy of many people present. Thus, she looked at Chu Qingyan coldly and arrogantly, waiting for her answer. She had issued a challenge in such a large occasion. If Chu Qingyan didn't accept, then it would prove that she was nothing more than an idiot. She didn't have the qualifications to stand beside His Royal Highness. Chu Qingyan nodded in agreement with Sichuan Emperor's words, but her heart was beating like a drum. Sichuan Emperor's words seemed to be praising Meng Shu, but there was a hidden meaning in his words. She chuckled and looked up at Meng Shu. "Then may I ask, Miss Meng, what did you say just now?" "I was preoccupied with eating and didn't hear clearly." Meng Shu's eyes twitched. Was this person really stupid, or was he pretending to be stupid? Saying such words in such an occasion. Wasn't it obvious that he was ignorant and didn't know etiquette? Everyone present must be thinking the same thing as her. How could this person be so rude and shoot his mouth off? However, wasn't this exactly what she wanted? She wanted to ruin Chu Qingyan's reputation. Therefore, she didn't mind and repeated what she had just said. "I know that Miss Chu hasn't been in the capital for many years, and I don't know if her knowledge of zither, chess, poetry, calligraphy, and painting is different from ours. I would like to ask for your advice." "No." "What?" Meng Shu was confused by her answer. "There's no difference," Chu Qingyan replied curtly. It was fine if this person didn't have good eyesight, but he actually had a problem with his hearing. Could it be that all the young ladies raised in the capital were so weak? Chu Qingyan expressed her deep suspicions. He couldn't even compare to those young ladies she had met in the past few years. Meng Shu's eyes twitched violently. This person's answer was really simple and direct. If it was a normal person who didn't want to accept the challenge, they would still be polite. Who would be like her? These words made Meng Shu a little embarrassed, but Chu Qingyan still had a face of sincerity. How can this person be so uncultured? She really has lived outside and doesn't know etiquette at all. Too rude. Not polite at all. How could His Royal Highness have such a fiancée? It's simply like a fresh flower stuck in cow dung. Whispers immediately filled every corner of the garden. Among the civil and military officials who were sitting upright, most of them were indifferent. There were also some who were happy to see this and wanted to watch a good show. As for the madams and young ladies present, most of them had a gossipy heart. They didn't like Chu Qingyan, but they also didn't dislike her. It was just that when someone jumped out to be a clown, wasn't it also a happy thing in life? The soldiers following Xiao all had excellent hearing. None of these words escaped their ears. Every one of them looked resentful. However, they were hindered by the fact that these gossipers were all women. Moreover, if they were to make a fuss about it in this kind of situation, it would anger the emperor. They couldn't help but turn their gazes towards their highness. At this time, Xiao continued to peel the prawns without batting an eyelid. How could these words escape Chu Qingyan's ears? Her gaze was slightly cold. She lightly moved her lips to the person beside her. "Big ice cube. They said I'm cow dung?" Xiao curved his lips. "Why bother arguing with a pile of cow dung? It'll lower your status." Chu Qingyan's mood was refreshed. When Meng Shu heard the discussion of the women beside her, she was overjoyed. This was what she wanted. She wanted to expose this person's true colors in front of everyone. She was simply a good-for-nothing who couldn't be compared to the noble ladies of the capital. If Meng Shu knew when to stop at this time, then she wouldn't end up looking for trouble. Unfortunately, people just didn't know how to be content. Meng Shu raised her eyebrows and looked at Chu Qingyan. She said considerately, "It's okay. We don't have to discuss the four arts. Everyone knows that His Royal Highness's martial arts are superb. You should be influenced by him a little and learn some martial arts. You just heard His Majesty say that I have some foundation in martial arts. Do you mind if we have a competition?" Chu Qingyan really wanted to reply, "I mind." She really didn't want to have too much to do with this retard. Moreover, she had already achieved her goal just now. She wanted everyone to think that she was just an ordinary person who didn't know anything. This way, she wouldn't attract too much attention and would avoid some trouble. Unfortunately, the situation didn't seem to develop in the direction she wanted, because the woman in front of her, Meng Shu, kept biting her and wouldn't let her go. If a tiger doesn't show its power, you really think I'm a hero cat? Compete with Meng Shu? Those who were familiar with Meng Shu knew that she was very battle-hungry and was very skilled in martial arts. Even among the generals in the court, there were very few who could beat her. If Chu Qingyan dared to accept, then it would be very lively. Among them, there were those who couldn't stand Meng Shu's arrogant and domineering attitude and wanted to see her suffer. There were also those who wanted to see Chu Qingyan put on a good show. If her first appearance in front of a high official and noble ended in a sorry state, then she wouldn't be able to stand in the capital in the future. After all, they didn't mind watching a good show. Chu Qingyan took a cloth towel from the side and slowly wiped each of her fingers clean. When Meng Shu became impatient, she slowly stood up. Okay, I accept your challenge. She shrugged, showing that she didn't care. Since she wanted to be invisible and these people wouldn't let her go, then she might as well fight. There was no need to shrink back. As soon as these words came out, the entire Imperial Garden became lively. They really didn't think that Chu Qingyan would have the courage to accept Meng Shu's challenge. The tyrant of the capital against the king of England's wife. This was going to be a good show. Everyone expressed a strong interest in this impromptu program. Ready to fight? Xiao raised his eyebrows. I'm just playing with her. Otherwise, it would be very boring. Chu Qingyan winked at him with her left eye and then walked out in a natural and unrestrained manner. Xiao shook the wine cup in his hand and slightly curved the corners of his lips. The little fellow couldn't sit still. However, these people dared to openly provoke the little fellow in front of him. He would remember this account. Chapter 10:26. At this time, Consort Yu, who had been sitting quietly all this time, spoke up as if she was worried for her. Qingyan girl, are you really going to accept the challenge? Swords and spears don't speak. This isn't a joke. Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows. She didn't say that she was going to use swords and spears, but this consort Yu really knew how to set a trap for others. Her fake smile was really a bit glaring. Don't go overboard. Discussion comes first. Winning or losing comes second. Chu Qingyan nodded slightly at Consort Yu, then turned to look at Meng Shu. How do you plan to compete? This question was asked as if she was casually asking what she was going to eat for lunch. Meng Shu lightly snorted. I'll let you smile now, but you'll be crying later. We're just going to compare notes. Take it as an entertainment for this celebration banquet, and also liven things up for the soldiers. We'll let them see that us women aren't weak. If the country is in danger, we can also help. Meng Shu's words won over the hearts of many people present. Even those women who didn't like Meng Shu couldn't help but straighten their backs. Her words made them feel proud. They had all dressed up meticulously for this trip to the palace because they'd heard that most of the brave and smart soldiers were unmarried men. Their family elders had instructed them to show their best side, so that the soldiers' gazes would linger on them for a while longer. Chu Qingyan nodded, but didn't comment. She couldn't tell that this woman was quite good at playing tricks with words. However, things would be more interesting if the opponent had some ability. Let's each pick a weapon that suits us, and then we'll decide the winner in one round. How about it? Meng Shu spoke again. She raised her chin high, as if she was the host here, and looked at her with slight contempt. Chu Qingyan expressed no objection. Meng Shu seemed to have been prepared. The palace servant behind her handed her a long black whip. She folded the whip in her hand and patted her palm. When she looked at Chu Qingyan, she asked, "What is your weapon?" Chu Qingyan did not intend to use her own, because that would be an insult to her weapon. She glanced at the Imperial Garden and locked her gaze on a spot. Then she smiled. This is it. The guard held an ordinary spear in his hand. Meng Shu's casual attitude towards Chu Qingyan made her feel that something was amiss. However, she quickly threw that thought to the back of her mind. She could not wait to see Chu Qingyan's face being humiliated, so that she could take her down a notch. I'll have to trouble your majesty to be the notary. Meng Shu cupped her hands and said mischievously to the Sichuan emperor. The Sichuan emperor shook his head and laughed. You little girl, I'll naturally be the notary, but you have to be careful not to hurt the king of England's precious wife. These words didn't seem to have any problems, but it was like a stone hitting 3 waves. Everyone's eyes faintly revolved around Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su. His Royal Highness was such a cold-blooded and heartless person. Would he be attracted to women? What qualifications did Chu Qingyan have to be favored by His Highness? The smile on Chu Qingyan's face faded a little. Sure enough, where there were people, there would be Jianghu. Mutual deception, and no blood would be shed. She propped her spear on the ground and looked at Meng Shu with clear eyes and a smile. You can begin. Meng Shu was waiting for these words. She loosened her fingers and the end of the whip fell to the ground. She swung her arm and the long whip made a loud sound in the air before it fell to the ground. It was at least 2 zhang long, and the pitch-black body of the whip was shining under the light of the fire. The timid women present couldn't help but feel guilty when they saw it. Seeing that Chu Qingyan didn't move, Meng Shu didn't wait any longer and chose to make the first move. If Meng Shu knew that Chu Qingyan was thinking about how many moves she had to give in order to not let others see through her true martial arts, she would be so angry that she would vomit blood. The long whip whistled through the air towards Chu Qingyan. Chu Qingyan narrowed her eyes. She didn't hold back from a start. If she was an ordinary woman, she wouldn't be able to dodge this whip, and her flesh would definitely be split open. She curled her lips, and her spear left the ground. When a long whip was in front of her, she quickly swept her spear and blocked this powerful whip. Meng Shu raised her eyebrows. She couldn't tell that she had some skills. Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows. You too. Then I won't be polite. Meng Shu swung her whip and then unceremoniously swung it towards Chu Qingyan. Chu Qingyan easily blocked it with her spear, but she had to make sure that no one could see that she was relaxed. This was really troublesome. The two of them went back and forth and were in a stalemate. The people present were all focused on the two of them and couldn't be bothered to eat, drink, and play as their eyes were fixed on them. Usually, it was common to see men fighting. It was really rare to see women fighting. It was simply satisfying their curiosity. However, these people were divided into several factions. The left prime minister was the main faction and stood on Xiao Su's side. They didn't want Chu Qingyan to lose because if she lost, it would be equivalent to losing Xiao Su's face. The right prime minister and others didn't want to accept Xiao Su's side because the reason was the opposite of the left prime minister and others. There were also noble ladies and young ladies who wanted to see Chu Qingyan or Meng Shu embarrass themselves. There were also unimportant spectators who didn't care about the matter and just wanted to pass the time. However, when the two of them were fighting fiercely, compared to the nervous and worried people present, there were some people who were eating melon seeds and weren't worried at all. They were the soldiers who followed Xiao Su and were familiar with their little princess's ability. You guys can just play around over there. You guys aren't even worth a finger of my little princess. However, only the two people in the middle of the field could truly see each other's ability. It wasn't like the outside world that they were evenly matched. Meng Shu had underestimated him at the beginning, but later on, she slowly became serious. Because in the fight, she felt more and more tired. Every move she made, no matter what, was blocked by the other party. Although the strength wasn't great, her arm was shaking until it was numb, and she was becoming more and more powerless. This was the first time she met such an opponent. He looked cautious and careful, but in fact, he was very skillful. She suddenly had an illusion that this person was simply playing with her, teasing her like a cat. This feeling of being played in circles was really uncomfortable. She really wanted to fight back and not be suppressed. However, the more she wanted to break free, the more the other party set up a trap for her. The invisible chains wrapped closer and closer, making her unable to move. Just as everyone was still cheering for this exciting fight, suddenly, Meng Shu took 2 steps back. Then her fingers loosened and a long whip fell from her hand to the ground. What happened? Didn't Meng Shu have the upper hand just now? Why did she throw away her weapon? Hearing the voices telling her to pick it up again and again, Meng Shu was shocked. It wasn't that she didn't want to pick it up, but looking at her hand, it was still shaking uncontrollably. What was going on? Why couldn't she control her hand? Chapter 10:27. Everyone saw Meng Shu's strange behavior, but they didn't know what she was trying to do. Only the person involved knew. At this time, Meng Shu was still unable to accept reality when she heard a clear voice ring in her ear. You let me win. She raised her head and saw Chu Qingyan with a smile on her lips as she looked at her indifferently. She suddenly felt deeply humiliated. This was the first time she had lost in front of so many people. Her invincible record had been broken. How could she, who was usually proud and arrogant, take this lying down? At this time, Sichuan Emperor's gaze moved from Meng Shu to Chu Qingyan. His eyes were sizing her up. Qingyan girl, I couldn't tell that you were hiding your skills. Chu Qingyan quickly turned around and replied, Your Majesty is too kind. Miss Qingyan's martial arts are much better than Miss Meng's, but it could be that she didn't eat enough tonight and her arms are weak. That's why she couldn't hold the long whip. Don't you think so, Miss Meng? Meng Shu, who was suddenly called out, looked at Chu Qingyan with a dark expression. Although she didn't know what tricks Chu Qingyan had used, she was sure of one thing. Chu Qingyan's martial arts were not as weak as she appeared to be. In other words, she was terrifyingly strong. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to calculate all of her moves so easily. If she was so scheming, then this person was terrifying. But at this time, under the gaze of the emperor and the civil and military officials, she could only bite the bullet and agree. Yes, rather than admit that she was inferior, it was better to go along with Chu Qingyan's words. At least she could save some face. But after agreeing, she realized that she had been tricked by Chu Qingyan again. Didn't eat enough? Wasn't this saying that she didn't like the palace banquet? Or that she had a big appetite? Chu Qingyan, this was too much. The outcome was decided, and everyone's curiosity was satisfied. They all looked away, but there were still people talking about this exciting competition. As expected of someone who follows Su-er, you more or less inherited Su-er's style. Not bad, not bad. Come, we will reward you. Sichuan Emperor laughed heartily. On the side, Empress Liang saw that Chu Qingyan had won and didn't embarrass them, so she let out a sigh of relief. But when she thought that she had to win, she couldn't help but feel suffocated. Her ideal daughter-in-law was someone who was educated and to understand, not a savage girl who wielded swords. So, Empress Liang's dislike for Chu Qingyan to increase. After solving the problem in front of her and receiving a reward, Chu Qingyan felt that she should stop while she was ahead. So, she ignored Meng Shu's face, which was as black as the bottom of a pot, and politely cupped her hands before leaving. Since Chu Qingyan had already left, she couldn't just stand there. In the end, Meng Shu returned to her seat unhappily. Along the way, she couldn't avoid the ridicule of the people around her. Meng Shu's anger turned to hatred. This Chu Qingyan, she would definitely teach her a lesson in the future. Chu Qingyan had just sat down when a cup of tea appeared in front of her. She looked back at the considerate person and gratefully took a few sips. She had just moved her muscles and bones, so she was a bit thirsty. You showed mercy? Just as she was enjoying the sweet tea, this sentence sounded in her ear. Chu Qingyan shrugged. I had no choice. I could only pretend to be to this extent. The opponent was too weak, so it was too difficult for me to pretend to be strong. No, I'm saying that you were too soft-hearted when you let her arm go numb, and she automatically gave up her weapon. Xiao looked at her calmly. Chu Qingyan blinked and said, I do want to break one of her arms, but this is not our territory after all. What's more, she is such a delicate lady. I can't bear to hurt her. Xiao raised his eyebrows. You sound a little jealous. Tisk, how am I jealous? I don't know where you got these Huahua butterflies from. The moment they came, they wanted to beat me into the mud. I won't let them have their way. Chu Qingyan rolled her eyes and complained to him. Xiao glanced at her. You're letting your imagination run wild again. Chu Qingyan harumphed. Let me tell you, a girl's sixth sense is very accurate, especially when it comes to relationships. When she saw Meng Shishu's gaze fall on Big Ice Cube, she understood why they were targeting her. This was the real reason why she wanted to accept the challenge. They dared to have ideas about her, man. They must be tired of living. Didn't they know who she was? Since she pretended to be invisible, they couldn't wait to see her weak and helpless. Then she had to show them her elegance. However, it was fine as long as she didn't provoke people she shouldn't provoke. If she became a thorn in their side, the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. Perhaps it was because of Chu Qingyin's character that she was able to be like a fish in water in such a complicated environment. Xiao Su didn't want to waste time on such an unimportant matter. He said softly, "When we're almost done eating, I'll take you out of the banquet early." He knew that she didn't like such occasions. He didn't like it either, so it was better to go back early. All right. Chu Qingyin nodded her head. This Miss Chu is so powerful. I was just afraid that she would suffer because of Miss Meng. I didn't expect her to be so powerful. Yu Tianyue grabbed on a Qi Lingyi's arm and said excitedly. She was often ridiculed by Meng Shishu. Now that she saw Chu Qingyin helping her vent her anger, her tone was filled with admiration for Chu Qingyin. At this moment, Qi Lingyi was being pulled by Yu Tianyue, but her mind had flown elsewhere. She had seen Chu Qingyin's ability just now. She suddenly felt a little disappointed. Did His Royal Highness like Chu Qingyin, who was lively, cheerful, and good at fighting? She didn't seem to have any. Qi Lingyi, who had always been modest and confident, began to feel inferior at this moment. However, Chu Qingyin's ability just now made some of the arrogant noble ladies in the capital unable to take it anymore. What right did a country bumpkin like her have to be praised by His Majesty and be praised by so many people? Thus, someone stood up. Jing Mingzhu, the only daughter of the Minister of Rights. Miss Chu, when I saw you defeat our capital's heroine just now, Mingzhu really admired you. However, Mingzhu is not good at using swords and sticks. Can we discuss the 4 arts of zither, chess, poetry, calligraphy, and painting? Although you said that there is no difference between zither, chess, poetry, calligraphy, and painting, then there is no barrier between us. It is very fair. Another one came. How is he supposed to eat it? Chu Qingyin had no choice but to put down her chopsticks. She looked coldly at the person who stood up. For a foodie, letting her see delicious food, but not eat, it was very hateful. This tone, this attitude, this aura. Chu Qingyin secretly rolled her eyes. Another one came to cause trouble. At this moment, everyone looked at her. Even that person called Mingzhu was showing off to her in a place where no one could see. Was this a provocation, thinking that she didn't dare to accept the challenge? Chapter 1028. Just as Chu Qingyin was pondering how to respond, "Consort," you spoke up again. "Your Majesty, isn't this official Jing's daughter? A while ago, this consort even heard about the poem she composed. She's intelligent and well-written." Sichuan Emperor nodded with a smile. "Beloved consort is right. Official Jing has nurtured a talented girl." Jing Jin immediately stood up to thank the emperor, then turned to Chu Qingyin. "Every time my daughter meets a talented girl, she can't help but ask for advice. I hope that Miss Chu will forgive her." As expected of an experienced official, with just a few words, she had no choice but to accept the challenge. Since Jing Jin was so sincere, if she refused, everyone would say that she didn't know what was good for her and was overbearing. Chu Qingyin looked at the person beside her helplessly. "Big Ice Cube, I can understand why you don't like to interact with officials. Each one is more cunning than the other." Xiao Su held her hand under the table, transmitting his warmth to her. He said firmly in a low voice, "If you don't like it, then reject it. It's fine." With Big Ice Cube's assurance, Chu Qingyin's unhappiness dissipated. She held his hand back and whispered, "It's just dealing with a few children. I don't need your help. I'll do it myself." With Consort Yu and Sichuan Emperor's interference, as well as Jing Jin's support, she was pushed to the top. She had no choice but to do it. However, it was a bit strange. What was Jing Mingzhu's background? Why was even Consort Yu helping her? Chu Qingyan raised her brows and stood up. Many thanks for Miss Jing's high opinion of me. I hope to receive your guidance. Jing Mingzhu nodded in satisfaction. She still agreed. It didn't matter if Chu Qingyan knew how to play the zither, chess, poetry, calligraphy, and painting. In any case, she wanted everyone to see her talent at this banquet. Chu Qingyan was just a stepping stone. Yesterday, her mother had told her that Imperial Concubine Moon's eldest sister-in-law, the eldest daughter-in-law of the right Prime Minister, Great Madame Fu, had revealed that Imperial Concubine Moon had taken a liking to her. As long as she worked hard enough to win the fourth prince's heart, then she would ask His Majesty for a marriage decree. Because of this, she had been excited the entire day. Today, before entering the palace, she had dressed up meticulously to impress the fourth prince and make him see her in a different light. Unfortunately, for some reason, the fourth prince didn't attend tonight's banquet. But after seeing everyone's amazement at Chu Qingyan and her defeat of Meng Shu, Jing Mingzhu had an idea. She could use this opportunity to show off her abilities and make His Majesty and Consort Yu satisfied with her. This way, she would be one step closer to the position of the fourth prince's consort. People needed to have comparisons to show off their abilities. Therefore, she chose Chu Qingyan. As long as she beat her, she would have a chance. Zither, chess, poetry, calligraphy, and painting. Miss Chu, please choose one. In order to show that she was proficient, Jing Mingzhu looked as if she could choose anyone. Chu Qingyan had just walked to the center of the banquet hall. When she heard this, she couldn't help but want to laugh. This person was quite conceited. Interesting. Then let's play chess. These 5 items were not difficult for Chu Qingyan, but her hands suddenly itched. She wanted to play chess with someone other than the big ice cube. Her chess skills were taught by the big ice cube, and she lost to him every time. She felt that she had no face, and Hualing and the others did not dare play with her. Then this time, she wanted to test just what level her chess skills had reached. Once these words were said, everyone had different expressions. There were even some that revealed looks of schadenfreude. What is it? Is there a problem? Chu Qingyan had a very innocent look. Along with her delicate and beautiful face, it made most of the youths fall for her. A young soldier said with good intentions, "It's like this. There was a chess competition held in the capital recently, and the winner was this Miss Jing. So it's like this." Chu Qingyan nodded. She never thought that she would pick the other side's strong point. But this was also good. She was qualified to be her opponent. Miss Chu can choose to play another game. At this time, Jing Mingzhu very generously expressed that she could choose another game. Chu Qingyan felt that this person was really hypocritical. She was clearly feeling proud, but she still wanted to act like a good person. "No need, I'll play this one." Jing Mingzhu's eyes lit up. "Chu Qingyan, you chose this yourself. Don't blame me for not giving you face." Very quickly, the chessboard was brought up. On the side of the Imperial Garden, there was a large chessboard set up. There were 2 eunuchs standing on the side. When the 2 of them were playing, they would place the pieces on the chessboard. At the beginning, Jing Mingzhu's expression was very relaxed, but after playing half of the game, her expression became tense. However, this did not save her from being in a one-sided situation. Because it was a 2 out of 3 game system, Chu Qingyan stood up after 2 games. She cupped her hands and said with a smile, "Thank you for letting me win." After she finished speaking, Chu Qingyan turned around and left. By now, Big Ice Cube should have already removed all the fish bones from a fish. Jing Mingzhu sat on the chair in a daze. Her eyes were lifeless as she looked at the situation. In the first game, she was barely able to contain Chu Qingyan, but she clearly felt that Chu Qingyan was holding back. In the end, she only lost 3 pieces. However, in the second game, she did not even have time to react before all her pieces lost their advantage. This person's chess skills were too terrifying. It was as if she did not need to think. Every move was made casually, but in the end, she could form an inescapable net to trap her. She did not even need to struggle before she was defeated. In the entire Imperial Garden, other than Jing Mingzhu, everyone else who knew a little about chess couldn't help but study the chessboard. Every move seemed useless, but there was a mystery behind it. Even the ministers who had decades of chess experience felt that they were not as good as her at scheming. As the saying goes, one can tell a person's character from their handwriting. Playing chess can tell a person's character. This Chu Qingyan looked young, but her heart was mature and steady. She was smart and clever, and was good at scheming. It was likely that the ministers present who knew how to play chess would not be able to beat her. This girl really made people look at her with a whole new level of respect. Jing Mingzhu did not know that she had originally wanted to step on Chu Qingyan to show off to everyone, but in the end, she had made a wedding dress for someone else. Many of the ministers in the middle party, as well as the respected ministers in the imperial court, had left a good impression on Chu Qingyan. They originally thought that only men could play chess well, but today they saw her with a whole new level of respect. They felt that this girl was beautiful on the inside and excellent on the outside. It was rare and valuable. This celebratory feast was originally meant to be a celebration for the three armies. In the end, it became Chu Qingyan's personal event. Those who wanted to challenge Chu Qingyan had to reconsider if they were capable of doing so. This Chu Qingyan, not only was she beautiful, she was also good at both civil and martial arts. Many people present were trying to figure out what she was not capable of. Chapter 1029. After 2 rounds of competition, those who had no impression of Chu Qingyan now had a deep impression of her. Her identity had also changed from Xiao Su's fiancé to Qingyan of the Chu family. This was where a person's success came from. She was not attached to a certain person, nor was she an accessory, but her original identity had been recognized. Although Xiao Su did not show it on the surface, he was very satisfied with the little fellow's performance. The people present did not dare to rashly challenge Chu Qingyan. Whether it was jealousy, admiration, or envy, they all had a common understanding, and that was that Chu Qingyan was not a person who could be easily bullied. If they wanted to fight with her, they had to have real ability. Otherwise, they could only be like Meng Shu, who was beaten to the point of being unable to fight back, or be like Jing Mingzhu, who was completely defeated in a second. The palace banquet was almost finished at this time. Next was the performance of the merits and the awards. Because Xiao Su was now the most respected lord of Sichuan, the Sichuan emperor did not have anything to confer. He was rewarded with a lot of gold, jewels, and thousands of acres of fertile land. These rewards were of little value to Empress Liang, Zuixiang, and the others because what they wanted was not these but eggs. They wanted an old hen that could lay eggs, which was the position of crown prince. However, they did not expect that Xiao Su would be rewarded with such a result in exchange for so many merits. Empress Liang's faction did not look very good. Compared to Empress Liang and the others, Consort Yu's faction was different. They laughed very proudly, as if mocking Zuixiang and the others for doing useless work. No matter how hard they worked, the position of crown prince would not fall on Xiao Su's head. This made Empress Liang and the others very angry, but they could not vent their anger in case the emperor found out. Xiao Su was very satisfied with this reward, because he had raised a little fellow who loved money as much as her life, and it just so happened that she could play with her. Just as Xiao Su thought, Chu Qingyan's eyes lit up as soon as she heard about the reward. It was as if she had fallen into a money grubber and couldn't pull herself out. Next were the other officers' and soldiers' rewards. Most of them were promoted by 1 rank. Even Jean Xin was given the title of commandant. He was in charge of the military affairs of the county. Although his rank was slightly lower than that of the prefect, it was still a very good position for someone who had just entered the bureaucracy. After the most important part ended, the banquet in the imperial garden also came to an end. Everyone raised their cups together to celebrate the success of the battle against the enemy and the beginning of a new chapter in the Golden Age. After Sichuan Emperor and the others left, the audience also left their seats. Soon, everyone surrounded Xiao Su and the other officers and soldiers and congratulated them. After a long time, when Xiao Su and the others came out, the moon was already high in the sky. Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan stood outside the palace gates and ordered people to send the drunk officers and soldiers back. After everyone was properly taken care of, the two of them slowly walked back to their carriages. Ian, do you regret not being able to appear in front of the civil and military officials as Chu Qingyan? Xiao Su tilted his head and looked at her with a serious expression. In fact, the greatest contributor to the war between the two countries should be her. If it weren't for her, the war would not have ended so quickly and would have been unusually difficult. Chu Qingyan smiled lightly. Big Ice Cube, what are you saying? When I first appeared on the battlefield, it wasn't to gain merit, but to help you share the burden. Besides, the ones who really contributed were Xiao Hai, Glutinous Rice Ball, and the others, but they can't become officials in the imperial court. If you really want to thank them, I'll buy them some delicious food later to reward them. He couldn't help but sigh with emotion at her carefree attitude. He had lived for so many years, but he had rarely met someone like this little fellow who didn't care about how much she had sacrificed and didn't care about what she had gained. She lived a very pure life and knew what she wanted. She kept her heart and maintained her original heart. This was rare and commendable. At this time, Chu Qingyan suddenly spoke. Big Ice Cube, as the saying goes, there are 4 joys in life. Sweet dew after a long drought, meeting an old friend in a foreign land, passing the imperial examinations, and the wedding night. She raised her smiling face and said against the wind, Tonight, for Jean Sheen and the others, isn't it equivalent to the time when scholars pass the imperial examination? They've worked hard for so long. It doesn't lose to 10 years of hard work. Xiao Su softly replied. Chu Qingyan nodded. Along the way, she could understand how much effort they had put in because she was the one involved. Perhaps what scholars put in was time, sweat, and brain power. But what a martial artist put in was not just these 3. They also had to face life-threatening situations from time to time. He felt that although he had been toasted many times tonight, he wasn't drunk yet. But looking at the little fellow under the moonlight, he suddenly felt a bit drunk. When will you be able to let me experience this kind of joy? He lowered his head and whispered into her ear. Because Huo Ling and the others were far away and the night wind was strong, his voice was very low. No one other than Chu Qingyan heard what he said. What? She casually asked. The last happy event in life. He gently replied. She was still immersed in her emotions from before, but after being teased by him, her entire body turned red like a cooked lobster. Big Ice Cube, what are you saying? Did you drink too much? She puffed up her cheeks and pretended to be calm, but her face was completely red and could not hide it under the moonlight. Seeing her trying to cover it up, Xiao Su was in a good mood. The night wind blew, scattering the fragrance of wine on his body. With the person beside him, it was a peaceful time. The restlessness in his body gradually faded because of this night wind, and this tranquility. Big Ice Cube, let's take a walk, she suggested. Xiao Su did not have any objections, so the carriage followed behind the two of them. What does it feel like to play chess with someone other than me? He mentioned the chess game from before. Chu Qingyan laughed when she heard this. I finally know what it feels like to kill someone. Moreover, it's overwhelming. It simply feels too good. No wonder you always like to play chess with me. Her current state was like a surf singing a song. Xiao Su revealed a smile. This is the so-called strict teacher produces a brilliant disciple. Chu Qingyan declined to comment. Miss Jing's chess is just nice to look at, but it's not useful. I wanted to preserve my strength, but after 10 moves, I couldn't take her playing style anymore, so it's better to end it quickly. Jing Mingzhu's chess was just like the flowery martial arts. It looked good, but it did not have any killing power. If all the girls in the capital played like her, there really wouldn't be anything to look at. Chu Qingyan instantly gave up the idea of playing chess with these girls. She might as well be killed by the big ice cube. That would be more satisfying. Little fellow. While she was thinking about tonight, she suddenly heard the big ice cube call her. What is it? I will ask Royal Father to resign tomorrow, Xiao Su said in a calm voice. Chapter 10:30. This sentence surprised Chu Qingyan. So soon? You don't want to leave? Xiao Su stopped and looked at her. Chu Qingyin immediately shook her head like a rattledrum. What a joke. She couldn't wait to leave this sea of misery as soon as possible. The further the better. Then why? If we leave right after coming back, will it affect you? This was what she was worried about. Xiao Su chuckled and reached out to rub her head. Under her complaining gaze, he suddenly said earnestly, Ian, when doing big things, you must avoid being overcautious and timid. Hearing this, she deeply understood the meaning and nodded solemnly. I'll remember it. He knew that this little fellow was a smart girl, so she understood with a little hint. He didn't say anything more. For him, in order to avoid trouble, he had to make a decision as soon as possible. We've done what we need to do in the capital. It's time to leave. Xiao Su held her hand and strolled slowly on the quiet street. Feeling the warmth of his palm, she raised the corner of her lips and followed him slowly. Then let's take a good look at the capital before we leave. To be honest, before I left that year, I didn't really appreciate it. In any case, it's still the capital of a country. No matter how lively and bustling it is outside, it can't compare to here. Xiao Su squeezed her fingers and said, Okay. At this moment, a horse appeared below the palace wall. He wanted to call out to the two people in front of him, but for some reason, he suddenly stopped. A cool breeze, peaceful night, streets, and houses. He watched the two people and a carriage slowly blend into the night. Xiao retracted his hand and sat quietly on the horse's back. He watched the two people until they disappeared at the end of the street. Your Highness, weren't you looking for His Royal Highness? The subordinate beside him asked with some confusion. Xiao calmly said, This prince has changed his mind. The people who followed him were well aware that this master of his never acted according to common sense. Thinking that it was just a matter of time, they didn't ask anymore. At this moment, Xiao's gaze was still fixed in the direction where there was no one. Eldest brother, I thought that we were destined to be alone for the rest of our lives. I didn't expect that you would be the first to find your own happiness. But this is also good. As your younger brother, no matter what happens in the future, I will do my best to protect you. Xiao withdrew his gaze, turned his horse around, and ordered the people around him. Let's go back. The horses galloped in the night breeze. What a carefree and unfettered night. When Chu Qingyin and the others returned to the Wang mansion, it was already very late. The servants had already prepared toiletries, so the two of them returned to their rooms to wash up. Because of Xiao Su's previous arrangement, his room and the little fellow's room were next to each other. So when he came out of the bathroom with his clothes on, he saw a person with disheveled hair, sitting under the light and grinning at him with her white teeth. Why didn't you let the servants dry you off before coming over? Xiao Su lowered his voice, faintly reprimanding her. Unfortunately, after being together for a long time, Chu Qingyin wasn't afraid of him. She said as if it was a matter of course. Today, in order to save your face, I not only used up my physical strength, but also my mental strength. Now my hands are still sore and my head is still in a daze. Tell me, shouldn't you serve me? Shouldn't you make it up to me? Xiao Su was dumbfounded by her self-righteous words. This little fellow always had so many fallacies, making people speechless. Although he didn't agree with her running over like this, he still picked up a dry towel from the side and helped her dry her long hair. It's really my good ice cube. The clean towel with the smell of sunshine gently wiped her hair, making her sigh in satisfaction. Xiao Su didn't know whether to laugh or cry at her words. She was really taking advantage of him and pretending to be obedient. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Chu Qingyin was lying on the table at this time, not wanting to move at all, but she was muttering inside. It was this late. Why would someone come looking for a big ice cube? After Xiao Su responded, the door was pushed open and Hong Yi walked in with a tray. Lord. Hong Yi raised her head with a smile, but when she saw Chu Qing in the room and what her lord was doing, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. The shock on her face was hard to hide, but fortunately, the two of them were not paying attention to her. She quickly collected her emotions and then respectfully added, Princess consort. What is it? Xiao Su had just helped the person in front of him dry half of her hair and was preparing to move to another side as he asked. Hong Yi walked to the table with the tray and said with a smile, "Lord, this is the pear and white fungus soup that Hong Yi specially made for you. Thinking that you went to the palace banquet today and ate very greasy food. So I made this soup to help you get rid of the greasy taste." Chu Qingyin couldn't help but raise her head when she heard this. Her gaze swept over the delicious soup, and then she raised a brow at the big ice cube beside her. It was so late, and there was a beauty personally delivering food. His luck with women wasn't bad. Xiao Su received her message and looked at her with a raised brow. Chu Qingyin snorted inside and then turned to Hong Yi. She said with a smile, "Hong Yi is so attentive. Is there a share for me? I also want to get rid of the greasy taste." Hong Yi's perfect smile froze on her face. How could she have known that Chu Qingyin would be in Lord's room? Also, she didn't care about Chu Qingyin at all, so how could she have prepared it for her? Hong Yi had an awkward expression as she looked with watery eyes at her lord. Hong Yi thought that Princess Consort had already gone to sleep, so she only prepared a share for Lord. How about Hong Yi go make a bowl for Princess Consort now? Her expression was perfect, and she acted out the role of an honest and loyal servant who was being put in a difficult spot by her master. If anyone else saw her innocent and troubled look, they would probably blame Chu Qingyin for being too heartless. Unfortunately, the person in front of her was Xiao Su, the Xiao Su who spoiled his wife like his own life. He did not have a change in expression as he continued to seriously dry Chu Qingyin's hair. Chu Qingyin waved her hand and said brightly, "No need to trouble yourself. His Highness and I can share a bowl. We ate a lot tonight, and he won't be able to drink a bowl, so there's no need to waste it." Two people sharing a bowl? Hong Yi was shocked by the message in her words, but she looked at Lord who was drying Chu Qingyin's hair. This wasn't impossible. Why had the relationship between Lord and Chu Qingyin improved so much in these few years? This was something she had not expected. So when she left, Hong Yi's footsteps were slightly unsteady. When the door was closed again, the smile on Chu Qingyin's face faded. She snatched the towel from the person beside her and randomly wiped herself. Xiao Su didn't understand why she was suddenly throwing a tantrum. He raised a brow and crossed his arms as he looked at her. "Speak. What is it?" Chapter 1031. What's wrong? Chu Qingyin was furious. "You actually don't know why I'm angry." Xiao Su was confused. In this world, there was a riddle that men could never solve. And that was why their girlfriend was angry. To Xiao Su, it was nothing more than that. He had lived for so many years, and he had never encountered anything that he didn't understand. But when it came to matters of the heart, he was a newbie. Chu Qingyin took a deep breath, then looked at him from the corner of her eyes. She said word by word, "In the middle of the night, a beauty came to visit and a heartwarming dessert. Don't you think there's a problem?" As soon as she said that, Xiao Su, who was still confused, suddenly had a strange look on his face. Then, he leaned closer to her. Chu Qingyin jumped away from him and couldn't help but glare at him. She was still angry, and he was still trying to take advantage of her. "What are you doing?" Xiao Su straightened up. He wasn't displeased by her disdain at all. He chuckled and joked, "I just smelled a sour smell. I want to know if it came from you." "You." Chu Qingyin blushed. She couldn't help but admit that she was really jealous, and it was very strong. She knew that Hong Yi had been with him for so many years. If she wanted something to happen, it would have happened long ago. But in love, once they confirmed their love for each other, there would be a strong possessive desire. She wanted his present and future. She would even be jealous of the people who appeared in his past life. Why couldn't she have known him from the beginning? Why couldn't she have been the only one in his life from the beginning to the end? She knew that she couldn't think like that. She trusted Big Ice Cube's character. But this was love. She lost her rationality for someone, went crazy for someone, and became someone who wasn't herself. The person in front of him was unusually quiet, and a look of remorse and self-blame flashed across her eyes. Xiao Su suddenly felt that something was wrong with her. He couldn't help but walk closer to her and hold her shoulders. His gaze was as gentle as water. Ian, I like it when you're jealous. Chu Qingyan raised her head, her eyes filled with annoyance. Don't you find me annoying? No. I hope that you will always focus on me and not look away. Xiao Su hugged her, his chin resting on her head as he tightened his arms. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh. So you're as possessive as me, big ice cube. Can I? He asked in a drawn-out tone. Fine, fine, fine. You can do whatever you want. She quickly raised her hands in surrender. Xiao Su laughed and shook his head. By the time Chu Qingyan returned to her room, an hour had already passed. Jasper and Xiao Shi were busy at the front. At this time, Xiao Shi pouted and complained, Master, although this Hong Yi is the palace's head maidservant and is in charge of everything in the inner courtyard, she's too daring. She actually went to His Highness's room this late at night. If she was doing her duty, why did she only prepare His Highness' portion? She clearly knew that Master was also attending the palace banquet. She clearly doesn't have good intentions. Xiao Shi's words weren't without reason. This was also the reason why she wasn't happy tonight, but Xiao Shi saw that her master was deep in thought and her eyes turned. She continued to complain. In this palace, whether it's Hong Yi, Qing Yi, or LVE, they all rely on His Highness's favor and don't put us servants from Lian City in their eyes. This is clearly looking down on Master. It's too much. Chu Qingyan's fingers, which were stroking her long hair, paused. She looked at Xiao Shi and narrowed her eyes. Xiao Shi, you can say these words in front of me, but don't go around saying them to avoid arousing suspicion. When Xiao Shi heard that her master's voice was emotionless, she blinked her eyes. This servant understands. Seeing that Xiao Shi wanted to continue speaking, Chu Qingyan found an excuse to dismiss her. After the door closed, Chu Qingyan turned to Jasper when she heard that the footsteps had gone far away. What happened to Xiao Shi in the palace recently? Jasper stepped forward. She didn't do anything these few days. Because she serves you, no one dares to order her to do anything. However, she was bossy and bullied a few maidservants. This servant thinks that it's because she came to the palace and was only a second-rank maidservant, so she's a little dissatisfied. The palace already has enough first-rank maidservants, but Xiao Shi's ability to be a first-rank maidservant is still a little lacking, so I arranged for her to be a second-rank maidservant. I didn't expect her to have such a high temperament. Don't blame her for wanting to put Hong Yi and the others in a bad light. Chu Qingyan chuckled, playing tricks in front of her. She was still too inexperienced. Jasper asked, although this Xiao Shi is young, she's quite scheming. Do you need this servant to knock some sense into her? Chu Qingyan waved her hand. No need. She won't be able to do anything even if we leave her to dry. We have many important matters to attend to, so don't waste our energy on one person. If she does anything out of line, then report it to me. Yes. Jasper nodded. That's right. Have you contacted Water Spirit? She suddenly thought of this matter. I've already contacted her. Does Master need something? Good. Get ready. I'm going to find her to play tomorrow. Chu Qingyan's lips curled up as she giggled. Jasper revealed a rare look of surprise. Are you really going to find her? Why not? Don't just stand there. Quickly go and rest. I want to have my beauty sleep. Chu Qingyan urged her to leave. When Jasper left, she turned around to look at her with a troubled expression. If His Highness knew that this subordinate had brought you to that kind of place, he would probably break this subordinate's legs. The next morning, Xiao Su got up and found that the little fellow was still sleeping soundly. It seemed that yesterday really tired her out. He told the others not to disturb her and ate alone. At this time, Hong Yi came in and stood to the side. Lord, do you need Hong Yi to serve you food? No need. Then this servant will help you tidy up the clothes you'll be wearing today. Hong Yi said as she walked into the room. Hong Yi. Xiao Su suddenly called out to her. Hong Yi turned to look at him in confusion. Lord, do you need something? This king remembers that you weren't in charge of these things in the past. He said in a faint voice. Hong Yi was stunned. In the past, Cheng Yi was in charge, but she's no longer here. This servant wants to do more for you, so I came over. You have to do your job. This king put you in this position because I value your ability to plan. If you do these small things, it will be burying your talent." Xiao Su's expression was still indifferent. Hong Yi thought that Lord couldn't bear for her to do these rough chores, so her heart thumped. Her face turned red and she said in a shy voice, "Lord, Hong Yi is willing to do these things for you." Xiao Su keenly sensed that there was something wrong with her tone. Thinking of the little fellow's reaction last night, it seemed that he had neglected Hong Yi and the others. Because he didn't restrict them, Hong Yi had thoughts that she shouldn't have. His black eyes deepened. "Hong Yi, how many years have you been by this king's side?" 10 years. Hong Yi said with a red face. "So it's been that long. It's time for this king to prepare a generous dowry for you. During this time, this king will have people help you find good in-laws." As soon as Xiao Su's words fell, Hong Yi's face turned pale. Chapter 1032. Hong Yi's face turned pale. She never thought that Yahweh would want to send her out of the palace. "Yahweh." Her face turned pale as she muttered. Xiao Su looked at her calmly. "You've been by this prince's side for so many years. You've managed this prince's estate well. You've done a good job. From now on, this prince will not treat you unfairly. If there's anyone you like, you can tell the princess consort. She'll arrange it for you." Hong Yi pursed her lips as her face was filled with disbelief. Yahweh would treat her like this. "What do you want to say?" Xiao Su looked at her hesitant appearance and asked with raised brows. Hong Yi gritted her teeth and then knelt down. Her eyes were filled with tears, looking very pitiful. "Yahweh, Hong Yi's life was saved by you. When we first met, Hong Yi vowed in her heart that she would always follow by Yahweh's side and serve you. She would use her entire life to repay your kindness. So Yahweh, please do not chase Hong Yi away. If Hong Yi has done anything wrong, please point it out to Yahweh. Hong Yi will change." Xiao Su slightly knit his brows. "You don't need to worry. I will find a good marriage for you. This king is not chasing you away. In a few days, this king will be leaving the capital and might not come back. If you stay here any longer, you'll spend your entire youth in this high family. So before you leave, this king will arrange a good home for you." Hong Yi only noticed the words, "leaving the capital." She said in a stunned voice, "Yahweh, can you let Hong Yi follow you? You haven't been in the palace these past few years, and Hong Yi has been worried that the servants there won't be able to take good care of you. There's no need. Wang Fei will be in charge of all of Ben Wang's matters." Xiao Su mercilessly refused. These words made Hong Yi feel hatred in her heart. Chu Qingyan had only been by the Lord's side for 5 years, while she had been devoted to the Lord since she was young. What right did Chu Qingyan have to receive the Lord's unparalleled love? She lowered her head and her expression was gloomy, but her words were full of gratitude. Hong Yi would like to thank the Lord for his care and love for Hong Yi. But Hong Yi has a presumptuous request. Go ahead. Hong Yi hopes that the future husband can be chosen by Hong Yi herself. She still looked down. This was the only time she could buy. Sure. Xiao Su agreed. Hong Yi bowed to give her thanks and then asked to leave. When she reached the threshold, she couldn't help but look back at the person eating. Lord, Hong Yi will not leave you. In this world, there was no wall that didn't have a crack. The news that Xiao Su planned to find husbands for Hong Yi, Huang Yi, and the others had spread throughout the palace. Most people had envious gazes. To be able to receive the favor of the Lord and be the matchmaker, the families they would marry into were definitely not bad. Xiao Su had just finished changing his clothes and was about to leave when he received a large hug. Big Ice Cube, good morning, Moi. Xiao Su was hugged tightly by her and couldn't help but smile. Did you eat honey this morning? Chu Qingyan released her grip and chuckled. To reward you, of course. What good thing did I do that I don't even know about? Xiao Su asked, even though he already knew the answer. You don't need to know the answer. Anyway, this miss is very satisfied with your performance and attitude. After saying this, she leaned forward and whispered in his ear, Big Ice Cube, I find that I love you more and more. After saying this, she jumped away and winked at him. If there weren't so many servants watching, Xiao Su really wanted to pull her into his arms and fiercely love her. Xiao Su calmed down the heat that was aroused by her and found that she was wearing men's clothing today. "You're going out?" It wasn't a question, but a statement. Chu Qingyan giggled. "Isn't Jean Xin an official now? I'm going to celebrate with him." In order to go out, she could only use Jean Xin as a scapegoat. Jasper stood at the side and looked down. Master's lying skills were getting better and better. Xiao Su nodded, "And come back early. Don't stay too long." Chu Qingyan immediately agreed and said with concern, "I wish you a smooth trip to the palace today." Xiao Su reached out and rubbed her head before striding away. Chu Qingyan watched as Jiang Yi walked away. Then she called by Yu and said, "Let's go. We're going to Ancient Court to see the beauties." "Master, if you're so loud, His Highness will be summoned back." Jasper reminded her. She immediately covered her mouth and whispered, "Be quiet and don't make a sound. If His Highness's people hear us, we won't be able to leave." Thus, right after Xiao Su left the palace, Chu Qingyan also left. Hong Yi watched as the lively courtyard returned to silence. A trace of resentment flashed through her eyes. Then she left in the other direction. Because the three armies had returned to court in victory, the Sichuan emperor had pardoned the country and gave all the civil and military officials 3 days off, so they didn't have to attend morning court. So Xiao Su had to enter the palace at this time to request an audience. But when he was about to reach the imperial study, a person appeared in front of him. Luo Yun. "What is it?" Xiao Su's expression was indifferent. "Your Highness, Her Highness the Empress suddenly felt unwell today. The imperial physicians were of no use. Just now, Her Highness the Empress said that she wants to see you." Luo Yun bowed and said sincerely. Xiao Su frowned slightly, then said, "After Ben Wang sees imperial father, Ben Wang will go to Chuyang Palace. Your Highness, Her Highness the Empress really is ill. You should go see her first. You can go to the imperial study later. Just now, this servant saw Lord Left Minister go to find His Majesty. Even if you go now, you can't immediately see His Majesty." Luo Yun pleaded anxiously. Xiao Su frowned and glanced at the imperial study not far away. He saw that the door was really tightly shut. "Let's go." Luo Yun's lips curved imperceptibly. Then she immediately turned to lead the way. After entering Chaoyang Palace, Xiao Su stopped and asked, "Where's my imperial mother?" Before Luo Yun could open his mouth to reply, he heard a voice full of energy coming from afar. "Su'er, it's getting harder and harder to invite you. Even Ben Wang, your mother, has a hard time seeing you." Xiao Su frowned. The person that Luo Yun said was ill was standing in front of him with a ruddy complexion. He didn't need a guess to know that this was Imperial Mother's usual trick. But after all these years, he still fell for it again and again. He didn't say a word and turned to leave. "Su'er, you want to leave the capital that badly? Leave Imperial Mother? Leave the path that you've paved all these years." Empress Liang's words followed closely. Xiao Su's footsteps didn't even pause as he continued to walk forward. Empress Liang's eyes were bloodshot. Was this still the child that she had painstakingly carried for 10 months to give birth to? Why couldn't he be of one mind with her? Xiao Su took large strides and was about to leave the hall. A voice that was neither hurried nor slow came from behind him. "I heard that Chu Qingyan's parents are both in Jiangnan." Xiao Su's footsteps paused, his expression unreadable. "It seems that you're quite concerned about the two of them." Empress Liang sneered. Xiao Su turned to look at her, his expression dark. "What does Imperial Mother mean?" "Nothing. It's just that seeing that you've all returned, it's quite boring to leave them in Jiangnan. This consort kindly sent people to bring them over. However, whether or not they can come to the capital in one piece is entirely up to you." Empress Liang sneered. Chapter 1033. Xiao Su's expression suddenly darkened. "Imperial Mother, this is a matter between us. Don't involve outsiders." "Outsiders?" Empress Liang sneered and glared at him. "I think that I'm the outsider here." Xiao Su's cold gaze locked onto the person in front of him. Time hadn't left many traces on her body, but her eyes had lost their clarity due to power and were now filled with resentment and anger. Imperial Mother, are you really going to do this? Sewer, do you think that Imperial Mother doesn't have a heart? Imperial Mother doesn't want to see you go down the wrong path and walk down a path of no return. Imperial Mother wants you to become better and enjoy a better life. But why can't you understand Imperial Mother's painstaking efforts? Empress Liang shook her head in disappointment. Xiao Su chuckled, and his lips hooked in self-mockery. Imperial Mother, if you're really doing this for Ai's sake, then you shouldn't keep forcing Ai to do things that go against his heart. In your eyes, power and wealth are greater than the heavens, but in Ai's heart, nothing is more important than freedom. Why can't you help Ai? Freedom? Haha. Empress Liang couldn't help but laugh. She then stopped and looked at him coldly. Without power and wealth, you're talking about freedom with this consort? What is freedom? It's a game played by those in power. Do you have the qualifications? Xiao Su frowned and looked at her without saying a word. Imperial Mother's personality was becoming more and more paranoid. There was no point in continuing to talk with her. Xiao Su clenched his fists and turned to leave. Empress Liang stood behind him and calmly said, "If you want the Chu couple to safely reach the capital or never come back, the decision lies with you." Xiao Su had his back to her. Imperial Mother, are you sure that the decision lies with Ai and not you? The faint mockery caused the smile on Empress Liang's face to disappear. She watched as Xiao Su left the palace. Her fingers gripped the armrest tightly, and her expression was ferocious. "Sewer, you forced me to do this. Don't blame Imperial Mother for being ruthless." As soon as Xiao Su left Chiang Palace, he saw eunuch Xiao waiting outside. When eunuch Xiao saw him come out, he immediately went to greet him with a smile. "Your Highness, His Majesty heard that you came to the palace, so he sent this servant to find you." For some reason, eunuch Xiao subconsciously bent his back even lower when he felt the chilling aura around His Highness. But thinking about how His Highness would receive training every time he went to Chiang Palace, the people in the palace were used to it. Eunuch Xiao guessed that the Empress must have sent something to His Highness again. Xiao Su nodded. "Where is Imperial Father now?" "His Majesty is still in the Imperial study." "Please, Your Highness," Eunuch Xiao said with a smile. He didn't say anything else and strode in the direction of the Imperial study. At this time, Chu Qingyan and Jasper were already standing at the entrance of Yingchun Courtyard. "Master, are you sure you want to go in?" Jasper swallowed her saliva. She looked at her unrecognizable master and confirmed again. Chu Qingyan shrugged. "We're already at the door. How can we not go in?" As she said this, she laughed mischievously and strode in with her hands behind her back. Jasper was helpless and could only follow closely. At this time, the procuress who was standing by the door to greet the guests saw the two dressed beautifully and was about to welcome them. But when she raised her head, she saw an ugly face full of pockmarks. The procuress was stunned. This little brother was so ugly that it was rare to see him. Even the manservant beside her was more handsome than her. This procuress was indeed someone who was used to being in a brothel. She quickly greeted them warmly. "Young master, you look unfamiliar. Is this your first time in our Yingchun courtyard?" This older sister has good eyesight. This is indeed this young master's first time in the capital. "I want to see the difference between the beauties in the capital and the beauties in our Jiangnan. I want to see which one is more beautiful and which one is more superior." Chu Qingyan pulled out the folding fan at her waist and opened it with a paw sound. She giggled without any sense of propriety. At a glance, it was obvious that she was a hedonistic young master who wandered around the brothel. The procuress thought to herself, "An outsider who looks like a rich person is a piece of fat meat." Thus, she pinched her handkerchief with 2 fingers and put the other hand on her waist. She twisted her plump waist in front of Chu Qingyan and said with a flattering expression, "Young master, you can rest assured. Our Yingchun courtyard is the largest beauty courtyard in the capital. Jiangnan's beauties are gentle and lovely, but we also have some here. Not only are we gentle, but we also have little chilies. We have all kinds of beauties. I wonder which one you like. What Chu Qingyan couldn't stand the most was the thick smell of rouge on the procureur's body. She took a step back without leaving a trace, and then covered her face with her fan. She smiled flirtatiously and said, "Not bad, not bad. This young master is here to broaden his horizons. I heard that you have a girl who can play the piano well. Then how many should I arrange for you now?" The procuress asked with a smile. "There's no need for that. Don't you have a Miss Xue here? This young master will choose her." Chu Qingyan said straightforwardly. "This." The brothel keeper revealed a troubled expression. "This Xue is the star of our shop. Although she only sells her skills and not her body, those who could be her guests are all handpicked by her. I'm afraid." Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows and gave Jasper a look. Jasper took out a gold ingot from her sleeve and handed it to the procuress. The procuress's eyes lit up when she saw the gold ingot. She took it and put it in her mouth to take a bite. She immediately smiled like a flower. "Okay, please wait a moment. This old maid will let someone inform you." As she spoke, the procuress waved her hand to let a maidservant come over. She said a few words and let her leave. While they were waiting, Chu Qingyan answered the old madam's probing questions perfunctorily. Then, her gaze wandered around. It turned out that this was one of Big Ice Cube's hidden businesses in the capital. It was not only used for profit, but also to gather information. A brothel, where mermaids and people from all walks of life mixed together, was the best place to gather information. It was no wonder that Water Spirit was in charge of this. At this time, the maidservant came back. Big Sister Yang, Miss Xu, said to let this young master go up. The procuress immediately let people lead Chu Qingyan and her servant over. "Well done. This is a reward from this young master." Chu Qingyan casually tossed a gold ingot into the procuress's hand. She didn't expect to meet such a generous person. Although he was a little ugly, he was much better than those handsome but poor people. The procuress's face bloomed into a chrysanthemum and became more attentive. She immediately ordered people to serve good wine and dishes. "Master, did you often secretly come to this kind of place behind His Highness' back?" Seeing that her master was so familiar with this kind of place, Jasper had a question. "What's wrong with that? It's just the first time unfamiliar, the second time familiar. Your master, I, have a strong learning ability, so you have to learn more from now on. Don't always keep a straight face. You'll scare away all the peach blossoms." Chu Qingyan patted her shoulder and said earnestly. Jasper couldn't help but twitch the corner of her eyes. Chu Qingyan's lips curled into a smile as she opened her fan and slowly walked up the stairs. Chapter 1034. The maidservant led the two to a room and then gently knocked on the door. When she heard a lazy response from inside, she pushed the door open and let Chu Qingyan and the maidservant in. What entered her eyes was the gauze that covered the entire room. The gauze wrapped around the corners of the room, giving people a hazy and confusing illusion. There weren't many decorations in the room. There were a few paintings hanging and a guqin hanging behind the main seat. Other than that, there was a vase on the table with a few stalks of jasmine. The entire room was simple and elegant with a hint of charm. No wonder she was the #1 courtesan in the capital. At this time, there was the sound of footsteps. Chu Qingyan held her fan and looked towards the sound. She saw a woman in a silver goose yellow dress, her figure graceful as she slowly appeared from behind the gauze. "Young master." When she saw the pockmarked face of the youth in front of her, Water Spirit didn't reveal her emotions like the procuress. She calmly saluted. However, she didn't know why, but when she first saw this youth, she felt like she had seen him somewhere before, especially his eyes. Just as Water Spirit was reminiscing, Chu Qingyan pursed her lips and smiled. "Water Spirit, look who I am." Water Spirit was stunned. This person actually knew her real name. Her gaze turned vigilant, but when the other took a handkerchief and wiped her face, her eyes widened. "Young princess consort." When the voice sounded, she restrained her charm and knelt down to salute. "This subordinate greets young princess consort." "No need to be so courteous. Stand up." Chu Qingyin smiled as she helped her up. After Water Spirit stood up, she asked in confusion, "Young princess consort, why did you appear in this appearance?" She had been waiting for young princess consort's arrival, but she didn't know it would be in this kind of situation. She couldn't help but sigh in admiration of this young princess consort's quirkiness. "We just returned to the capital, and there are too many people watching. So in order to fool people, I had to sacrifice my appearance." Chu Qingyin pretended to sigh. Actually, the person she wanted to hide it from the most was his big ice block. If he knew she had come to this brothel to play, he would probably lecture her for several days. Water Spirit nodded and then personally made tea. Chu Qingyin looked around the room, and then her gaze landed on Water Spirit. When she saw her that day in the Wang Fu, she was charming and charming. Now that she was here, her makeup was even more seductive. As expected of the most versatile pigeon feather horseman, she was skilled in different appearances. "Young princess consort, is there something on my face? Why do you keep staring at this subordinate?" Water Spirit looked at her in confusion. Chu Qingyin's face. "Yours face is a rose." Shui Ling giggled. "Little princess, you really know how to tease your subordinates." First, I want to thank you for helping me choose such a fitting dress last time. That way, I wouldn't be embarrassed." Chu Qingyin sincerely thanked her. Water Spirit smiled. "This is what this subordinate should do. You don't have to take it to heart. Second, I want to ask you for a favor. I want to know the ins and outs of my father's defeat 15 years ago." Chu Qingyin's tone was solemn, and her face was stern. Shui Ling nodded and said, "Young princess consort, regarding this matter, even if you didn't instruct this subordinate would still be investigating. Master had already instructed this subordinate to do so before, but because of the invasion of the southern Blue Country, this subordinate was delayed. However, this subordinate managed to find some clues." "Okay, quickly tell me." Chu Qingyin didn't expect to find such an unexpected reward and immediately urged her. Water Spirit slowly told her. At this moment, in the Imperial Palace, Xiao Su was about to enter the Imperial study when he bumped into Left Prime Minister Liang Song, who was about to leave the hall. Liang Song stopped and bowed to him. "I heard that your highness came to find his majesty." This humble official took up his majesty's time. "So your highness went to Chuyang Palace to pay respects to the empress. How filial." Xiao Su faintly glanced at him. The reason why Liang Song appeared here was probably because Imperial Mother had asked him to block the Imperial study and delay his meeting with Imperial Father. Xiao Su slightly nodded to Liang Song and brushed past him. Liang Song rubbed his chin and smiled like a fox. Then he stepped out of the palace. At this time, Sichuan Emperor had just closed a memorial when he saw Xiao Su walk in. He put down his brush. His usually sharp eyes lost some of their sharpness, but there was still a lingering aura. "I heard that you came to the palace to find Jin today. What did you want?" Sichuan Emperor casually asked as he folded his hands on the table. Xiao Su lowered his eyes. "I want to discuss with Imperial Father about the defense of the border." These words caused Sichuan Emperor to raise an eyebrow. An unreadable expression flashed through his eyes. "Okay, it seems that you already have an idea. Tell me." Time slowly passed as Xiao Su calmly narrated. When the last sentence fell, Sichuan Emperor stroked his beard and nodded. "Your idea is very good. In 2 days, Zhen will discuss the list of names of the soldiers with the ministers at Morning Court." Xiao Su nodded in agreement. The son in front of him was a giant among men. As a father, he should be proud of his son. However, in Sichuan Emperor's eyes, he could not agree with his son's suggestion. This was because he did not know how many people on the list were indebted to Xiao Su. If something happened, the border would fall into enemy hands. To be safe, he would not use the people that Xiao Su suggested. Xiao Su's expression was very calm. Perhaps he had seen through Sichuan Emperor's thoughts. Zhen needs your help with something." Sichuan Emperor seemed to have thought of something and said in a loving tone. Xiao Su cupped his hands. "Imperial Father, please speak." This morning, Zhen received a letter from the Nansang Kingdom. They said that they will send an envoy to Sichuan in a few days. They also sent a princess and want to make peace with us by marriage. However, Zhen heard that many of the people who will come this time are fierce warriors from the Nanshan Kingdom. When the time comes, Zhen will need you to oversee the court and take down their spirit. Sichuan Emperor slowly said, since Nanshan Kingdom wanted to make peace, then it must be sincere. Since ancient times, it was normal for a princess to make peace with another country. This time, Nanshan Kingdom chose to make a marriage alliance. Xiao lowered his eyes. I understand. Hearing his answer, the West Xian Emperor nodded in satisfaction. You are the most outstanding among all the princes. Everything you do is done very well. This time, we believe you will do well as well. I do not deserve such praise. Xiao lowered his head and replied indifferently. Very good. Then go back and rest. When you have time, bring Qingyan to the palace for a walk. Yes. After Xiao left the imperial study, he stood at the highest point of the palace. His gaze swept across the tall buildings below him, and a trace of confusion appeared on his face. Fate was always playing tricks on him. Only when the eunuch beside him carefully called out to him did he regain his senses. He walked down the stairs step by step, looking very lonely. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.